Hi there, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of After the Last Pair. And joining me on today's episode, I'm glad to say we have a bit of a legend of the game. In the game, shooting at the top levels for, over 40 years. So I did put 30 on my notes because I didn't want to offend him, really. But so, yeah, Mr. Matt Hance, I think, you've won multiple championships across multiple disciplines, sporting, compact, represented the Team GB, England, managed the team as well. So I'm pretty sure most of my viewers will have heard of you, if not know you.
Yeah.
But for those who haven't, we want to give us a little quick bit of a background, how you got started in shooting in the first place.
Yeah, it does. When you recap it like that, it does seem like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean, competitive clays never really were of an interest to me, at a young age. I mean, like a lot of people that get into shooting, my parents were farmers. So you naturally, you just sort of dragged up with a gun, it was part of the furniture around the house. I suppose I was very fortunate. We had a commercial cherry orchard. So we grew, we had 14 acres of cherry trees. So obviously from, sort of June really through till early September, we were plagued with pigeons and starlings and God knows what else. And I learned very, very early on that I didn't like just scaring them, walking around with a rattle or a plastic bag or anything like that. So,
It tends to be a bit of a temporary fix, that, doesn't it?
yeah, it was. So my father bought me, he actually bought me my very first shotgun, a little 9mm garden gun, I think, when I was about 6. And ironically, I've still got it, and I actually shot a rat this afternoon with it. So, it still works. But yeah, I had that when I was, 6, I think. But
Wow.
I had to carry that for a year before I was allowed to shoot it. So I used to go out with the old man and numerous friends and what have you. But yeah, I was never given a cartridge or anything for it. It was just a lot of pretending at that stage. And I think probably the other thing as well that did me a favor back then was because all the fruit was commercial, we were never allowed to shoot anything in the trees. So everything had to be shot on the wing. So you learn very, very quickly to sort of shoot moving objects rather than the stationary ones. Then, it moved on from that. The following year, he bought a little single barrel Bakel, 12 gauge, kicked like a mule.
I've got one in my cabinet. It's nice and graunchy when you open and close it, but it's quite good fun.
Yeah, but probably from 7. We had a choice. You either had to pick fruit or you had to scare birds, and I hated picking fruit. So,
shooting sounds a lot more fun than
definitely. And literally, we used to put gas guns out in the orchard. So I'd be out there at 4:30, 4:45 in the morning, turning the gas guns on. Walk around the orchard for 2 or 3 hours before school. And then literally, school got in the way. But then the minute that finished, it was back home and I had terriers and a gun. And I think that was pretty much it for, probably the first 7, 8, 9 years, I suppose, of my shooting career, and everything, the old man, typical farmer, very tight.
Don't need to tell me I'm farming and Yorkshire, so it's a double hit for us.
Even worse. You get given literally a handful of cartridges and told to make them last. Well, they never did, but so I mean, literally, it was even outside of the cherry season when you're shooting pigeons or anything vermin control. Because we ate everything. Literally, you didn't want to waste a cartridge. Everything you shot was for the table. And the idea of shooting at silly discs flying through the air where you actually got nothing for it, nothing in return, didn't make a lot of sense. A few friends of mine did it, but I could never see the appeal.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until, much later on, I got invited by some of the lads that used to shoot in the orchard to one of the game fairs. Back in the day, it was the CLA game fair. And I remember going up and shooting that with a little side-by-side 16-bore hammer gun. I got some funny looks then, I must admit. But and
if you can't shoot one at a game fair, where can you?
Well, yeah, exactly. But on the clay line, a little know, 16 bore non-ejector hammer gun didn't half get some looks from the clay shooters. No different to, you know, I would be giving somebody the same looks now, you know, 50 years on. But
first few times I went, I took my dad's AYA Yeoman.
mhm.
That, I've commented before, more rust than blued, and that got some interesting looks as well.
Yeah, yeah. And that's really how it all sort of started. And then, like I said, we went to this game fair, and very first time I ever met a gentleman called Carl Bloxham. Some of the older listeners on here will know Carl. Phenomenal shooter. And yeah, I mean, watching some of the guys shoot the clay line back then was just, I was just in awe of them and never seen anything like it, you know. And I actually won a few quid, which was very, very handy, very much of a surprise. But to me, it was actually, sounds sort of a bit daft saying it, but to me, it was quite easy because a clay flew in a straight line. I mean, we know they don't, but you know, it didn't have a brain and wasn't trying to avoid the shot. So
It can't drop a wing and suddenly change, can it?
exactly, yeah, exactly. So to me, it was almost, yeah, fairly easy shooting clays back then. And like I say, I picked up a few quid, and I wasn't earning a lot of money back then. And all of a sudden, it was a bit like, hold on a minute, but yeah, you can actually go out and earn a few quid pulling the trigger on clays, and it really sort of progressed from there. Yeah, yeah, it did.
So you won't say it were an instant love then, until that pay packet come.
Um, growing up always with a gun in your hand and a dog by your feet was just the norm.
Yeah.
And like I say, everything was food for the table back then. But then, um, I sort of, I went to that game fair, won a few quid, and thought, actually, this is quite easy. And then there were hundreds and hundreds of little, what I call straw bale shoots back
Yeah.
then. You know, I mean, literally within 20 miles of, you know, Buckinghamshire where I lived, there were clay shoots on every weekend, you know, little 30 birders, 50 birders. And you only go out and you win a little trophy and all that sort of thing. And it was more the sort of the social side of it. You know, you'd go
Yeah.
out, a little gun club I joined at Knapp Hill, we'd go out and they met once a month. They had a club, had a few traps, and you'd sort of set a course in the morning and shoot a few clays and then go at the pub at lunchtime. And it was just something a bit different and something a bit fun, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then been doing that, I've been doing that for probably about 12 months or so. And then one of the lads actually asked me if I wanted to go and shoot the English Open, and it was up north. I forget where it was. It was some big estate, country manor estate where it was being held. It was on a greenfield site.
Mm.
And of course, being very naive to it and what have you, I didn't even know that, you know, Matt Hance from the Sticks could go and shoot an event like that. You know, it was certainly not well known. If you didn't know someone that invited you, you would never sort of know how to get into it as such. And I remember going to that event, and that was a very humbling experience. I watched a gentleman, a disabled shooter that literally only had one arm, had a cartridge belt on, and literally used to break the gun on his foot. He used to take 2 shells out of his belt, drop them in the gun, close the gun up, and he was shooting targets one-handed. And I'm just like, yeah, I mean, it was, I shouldn't be here. You know, this is way, way beyond any level that I should be at, you know. And I can't remember what I scored, but it wasn't very many. But I just, yeah, really didn't feel worthy of being there at the time. I mean, that's, yeah, going back a long time now. But, you know, things change and you get meeting other people, and then you get invited to other sort of events, and yeah, gradually you sort of move into those circles, and it becomes the norm. And everybody that's listening to this that shoots clays knows how addictive it is. And once it gets under your skin, it's so addictive you can't put it down. And here I am, yeah, a long years later and a lot less money in my pocket.
Well, I'd say it's not the cheapest of hobby. It's like a proper addiction because it's all your money as well.
Yeah,
Can
it
make
is.
make you lose some relationships as well.
I always joked with my old man before he passed away, and I said to him, you know, if he'd have bought me a set of golf clubs when I was 6 instead of a shotgun, if I'd have sort of put as much into that as I did the shooting, I wonder where I'd be now. But you know, but I wouldn't change it. I really wouldn't. You know.
No. So that I'm guessing that would have been progressing into English sporting at that time.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty much all there was available, all the straw bale shoots. I mean, it was back with manual traps, you know, and pullers, and it was just, it was just English sporting. I mean, FITAS was very elitist back then. Very few shoots were on, and if they were always sellouts, and if you weren't in the know and got booked in well in advance, you didn't have a chance of you know, taking part in those. So it was just English sporting, and then, you know, you sort of work your way up through the ranks, and you start getting better, and then you start putting more work in. And I'm very competitive, so to me, if whatever I do, I always want to do to the best of my ability. So it was a question of, right, you know, if you're going to do this, let's really do this and give it everything. So I started shooting some more like the registered shoots then, and more competitions. It sounds silly looking back, but get selected for your county team, you know, that was a huge honour back in the day. And we had some big names. A lot of GB shooters lived in the county. So actually getting to sort of rub shoulders with, you know, those sort of guys, even at county level, was quite a humbling experience. So you sort of do that, and then again, I made the world championships top 6 super final when it was at West London back in, I don't know, mid-90s, I suppose, something like that. Sky Sports, I mean, we had some really good sponsors of the events and that back then. Sky Sports were filming it. And I shot the event, you know, the main sort of 200 target event, no problem at all. That seemed fairly straightforward because you're out with the squad and you're just doing your own thing. But when it came to the super final, and, you know, the likes of Stuart Clark was there, Carl Bloxham was there, George was there, and the commentators introducing everybody, and here we have George, at that time probably 15, 18-time world champion, you know, and it ran down through the list, and it got to me, and I think the highest accolade I had was my county sporting title. You know, it was and I didn't shoot that very well at all, but you know, I was there, and I think that then really gave me the sort of the drive to go, right, come on then, let's do this. And then I got introduced into FITAS. And FITAS for me, you know, 2 very good friends, Gwyn Presley, builder from Aylesbury, and Mick Stone, both shot for Gwyn shot for Wales, Mick Stone shot for Great Britain numerous times. We used to go out on sort of Sundays and go and shoot those events. And everything I learned from them, normally by mistakes, but I learned from them. They were absolutely brilliant. But to me, it was so much more natural because obviously coming from a rough shooting background, you know, gun down, you know, you see a target, it's random, you got multiple different, you know, presentations. It was the nearest thing to, in theory, live quarry shooting. So to me, it just felt so natural. And it was also the hardest to perfect. So I mean, everybody's that shot FITAS has always said, you know, it's the Formula One of clay shooting. Those that shoot their disciplines, whether it's skeet, track, compact, sporting, whatever, I'm not, you know, going to slate any of them. They enjoy their discipline, but to me, that one is the pinnacle of all clay target shooting, without a shadow. Yeah. So then I got into that, and that was, and that's really tough as well, because I mean, to make, you know, the Great Britain team, there's 4 places.
Yeah.
And, you've got Mickey Rouse, you've got John Bidwell. I mean, all these guys, George Rich, these guys are all in their heyday, and phenomenal shooters. And trying to find a slot in the team was virtually impossible. Um, and yeah, that was tough. And then I suppose I was very fortunate that the CPSA actually decided to adopt a home international for FITAS,
Yeah.
which they'd never done. They'd done the sporting and the other disciplines, but then they decided to introduce FITAS. And I managed to make the team. I was the first man in. I got to captain the team at the home international, took high gun there. And I think that probably then gave me the confidence to actually elevate myself and go, a little bit of self-belief, I suppose, as much as anything else. And you sort of think then once you've had a result or two at that sort of level, you think, well, actually, yeah, I can do this. And then, the GB places started to come.
And so
So
you've been fairly regular in the teams for most of the years.
that's because nobody else wants to do it. No, I think
Because it
I've
is a
been.
slog, isn't it? You've got to
It
get to
is.
them
It is.
selection
I mean,
shoots. You've got to perform at each
I've
shoot to
been
get the
very
points.
consistent. I think I'd actually made the team 4 or 5 years or 4 or 5 occasions that I'd actually made the team. And believe it or not, even by that point, I'd never actually won a selection shoot.
Right, just been
Um,
up there at each
but
one.
I was always there because it's a points-based thing. I was always sort of there or thereabouts. Um, and I think that's the thing. And that probably, I know we'll discuss it later, but like with the coaching side of it, I see so many good shooters, but they're on sort of roller coaster rides with their performances. One week they're untouchable and the next week, it all goes wrong. So for me, I suppose being very structured and disciplined with my approach to it helps me sort of remain fairly consistent. And yeah, that got me into a lot of the teams. If you if you count the England, for FITAS, Sporting, GB, and obviously later few years Compact, I think it's 76,
Wow,
international caps, which um
deal.
yeah, it's
I knew it were a lot. I didn't know it were quite that
yeah,
many.
yeah, it's quite a few. Yeah, it's quite a few. But then unfortunately, this year's been a bit of an anomaly because of work and other commitments that I've got. But I've turned down 2 opportunities to shoot for the country this year, which I don't like doing. I hate turning them down because anybody that knows me knows that I will always put team or country first. Um, so yeah, and it's always an honour. Whenever you can don that uniform, parade with your team, and fly your flag, to me, it's the best experience there is going. So, um, I sort of said, I did say at one stage I was going to stop if I made 50, then I was going to stop if I made 75. Now Sam, my other half, she's telling me I've got to stop when it's 100. So, yeah,
I
yeah.
think it may be, until the point that you physically can't do it by the sounds of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. But I mean, the competition, it was tough back then, but it's still tough. I mean, it
Yeah.
really is. I mean, there's so many talented shooters out there today.
Well,
Um,
that's what I keep hearing. Obviously, I've only been involved for 6 years. A similar story to I grew up on a farm with a shotgun, but it was for pest control. We were beef farmers. We're not arable, but took out quite a few bunnies over the few years. And then just went and shot with some friends once, and just got hooked on it. Absolutely hooked. But I hear that quite a lot. A few people saying it were always there were a group of people previously that would win
yep.
and always be at the top, whereas now it's a much wider field. Like there's more
Oh,
depth,
yeah,
strength in depth now.
yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, if you go back, probably go back 30 years, certainly 25. You ever went to any one of the majors, be it English, British, or English, compacts or UK championships, British Grand Prix, whatever, probably 15 shooters that you could name, that were very, very prolific, very, very successful, and deserved to be in that list. But if you look at it today, there's well, to give you an idea, we've just shot a compact at the weekend down at Barbary, the British Masters. And okay, it wasn't the hardest compact in the world, but then hey, you can miss any target anywhere. There were 3 shooters shot 100 straight. There were 9 shooters shot 99. I think I shot 97, and I don't think that was even in the top 20.
Right.
And I think today, if you look at any of the big shoots on their day, there's 50, 75, maybe even more than that, shooters that are capable of, you know, putting in a winning score. So yeah, it is different. But then the whole sport's different. The industry has moved on so much in the last sort of 25 years. It's incredible.
In terms of, you mean in like the attendance, the
Um,
professionalism, or
I think everything, the amount of competitions that are on, the amount of grounds now that have full blown, consistent training facilities, as I sort of touched on earlier, if you go back 30, 40 odd years, yeah, there were dozens and dozens of straw bale shoots, but they were all manual traps. They were always 5-pair stands and, 30 birders or 50 birders, 100 birder was a rarity. But they were only ever on at weekends. And most of these clubs were run by people that had Monday to Friday jobs and,
volunteers?
put shoots on at the weekends. Yes, you still had the likes of Holland and Hollands, you had Royal Berkshire, even Churchill's, for a while, but they were only ever corporate or they were never involved in clay shooting, competitive clay shooting Monday to Friday. You just didn't go to those sorts of grounds. Whereas if you look upon it now, if you look at, Churchill's today or Barbary or Coley's, Sporting Targets, Eaton Hall, I mean, obviously we've just got, back from there for the Top Gun, High Lodge. You look at any of these and they are flat out Barbary closes one day a year.
Yeah.
Everything's automated now. I couldn't tell you the last time I saw a manual trap on a shooting ground anywhere. And they're full blown businesses. So the facilities now are open to shooters to be able to go out and shoot as many as you want on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I do think cartridges have evolved. I don't think guns have evolved so much. I think people are understanding more about gun fit, about balance, obviously more about chokes. Nobody ever changed chokes 40 years ago. I mean, it was unheard of. So people are understanding the equipment side of it, hearing protection, glasses, visuals, everything has become more advanced. Cartridges have certainly become more consistent. And now with automatic traps, the clays have become more consistent. I think guys are having an opportunity to put a lot more lead through the gun. And that's naturally going to elevate the level. And there are, I mean, I look at young Troy, one of the lads I teach, he's 20. He's out as often as he can get. There's not many days of the week where he's not working when he's not shooting. But I've watched him over the last sort of 2 or 3 years, the level and the consistency that he's now achieving. And I can't do anything but just stand in awe of him and so many others. Young Reese Harrison, another one, shooting at an absolutely brilliant level. We know, you've got some of the bigger names. You look at James, Atwood, obviously, the last couple of years, he's on a phenomenal roll. But then, you can never write the big fella. George, he's been around. I mean, he's been a thorn in my side for years and years and years. But yeah, you can never write him off because he's always another one that's right out there. Martin Myers, we had a shoot off, obviously, at Top Gun with George and Martin. And obviously, they're both now, or I've now joined their sort of age category. In other words, we're all getting old. But they're still phenomenal shooters.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you were still around after the super final when they were playing about with the pairs.
Yeah.
And George missed a few and then shot the Simpet wrong way around from the hip. And you're like,
I know.
Bloody hell.
But, when you look at that, and that's, I think part of that is what the sport is missing. You know, when you look at it, and Sam Ward, you know, obviously works for Edgar and Bunzoli UK. You know, he's been on a phenomenal run for the last couple of 3 years. But he got to join that. I won't call it a play or mess around afterwards, because they wanted to break those targets, you know.
Yeah.
But you got
bit of exhibition, wasn't it?
yeah, but you got
and that-
Phil, you got James, you got George. I think Richard joined them, and then obviously you got Sam went and joined in there, and they had a lot of fun. The crowd absolutely loved it.
It were brilliant.
And I think the sport has lost part of that. You know, a lot of the shoots we go to now, you know, at the end of the event, when it gets to the prize giving and that, if you're not in with a shout at the prize, nobody stays. And when
Yeah.
you put a lot of effort and a lot of work in, both from the grounds point of view or the organisation's point of view, and when you've only got 10, 20, 30 people staying behind to cash their envelopes, it's not good for the sponsor. And that was the phenomenal thing about, obviously, what, you know, Sid and Amy have done up there, and the team, the atmosphere that they create. The last time I saw that was actually at the Worlds at EJ's about 4 years ago, when we had beautiful weather, and, you know, because obviously that helps, but we had beautiful weather and there was a good crowd sort of stayed there. But so many of our other shoots, you know, you've got Eurocash later on this week. I think you're going to that. It's not your first time going there, but again, the atmosphere there is absolutely incredible. And on a lot of the international shoots, the continental shoots, go to America. I've been fortunate enough to shoot there a few times. You know, the whole atmosphere is totally different, and everybody has a lot of fun. We don't have a lot of fun in clay shooting in the UK at a lot of the events, you know, or I don't see it, you know.
No, I know what you mean. Like I say, that bit of, we say it fun. Like you say, they were all wanting to beat each other. That competitive streak doesn't go away, does it?
No, not at all.
But as a crowd, you know, we just watched the super final and the class finals and stuff, which were brilliant. To have that while they were sorting the presentation out, everyone were having a laugh, you know. And I said to a friend of mine, because it was the first time he'd been to a big competition like that. That's not true, actually. I'd been to Worlds last year. But again, we were off on Sunday because we had to get back up north. But I just said to him, this isn't what it's usually like.
No.
You know, but how much more fun it was. And I think it needs that spirit a bit more. Now I'm hoping, I mean, I've said it on the other podcast as well, it's great what you and all have done. I'm really looking forward to see what it pushes others to try and do as well. Because they've demonstrated really that it is possible.
It is.
And people want that sort of enjoyment from it.
Yeah, they do. I think one of the big challenges, we had a European Championship in 2015, European Fit House at Lulworth Castle. And the atmosphere there was diabolical. Great Britain have got phenomenal shooters at most of the European and world events. The British contingent represents sort of 40% of the field. You know, we're blessed on that. Unfortunately, if we go abroad, you know, like you're out there at Eurocash, obviously, whether it's Cyprus, whether it's Italy, wherever the championships are, we're going there, yes, to compete, but we're also making a holiday of it. It's a few days away. It's a social side of it. So when
break from rain, hopefully.
yeah. So when you go, I think you treat it more as a vacation, and you're in a better frame of mind. When we had the Europeans, like I say, in 2015, yes, we had a lot of British shooters, but they would literally travel down in the morning, shoot their 50 clays and travel home again. So the village had no atmosphere. The food marquee had no atmosphere, you know. And I think what would be really great is to try to do an event that either finishes on a Saturday so that people don't need to rush off home. You know, maybe have an event or something running on the Saturday evening or something. Or if it is going to finish on a Sunday, try to get everybody to book the Monday off work, you know, so they're more of an outing as a holiday, as a vacation, than just another clay shoot.
No, definitely. I think, like you said, because there's that many registered on. A lot of people just treat it like a register, don't they? Just go put the card in and off they go, rather than sticking out. Now, it's a
and
bit of a catch-22. I've said
it
this
is
before.
very difficult.
Often there's nothing to stay for.
No.
Other than, a bit catching up with people and possibly a drink. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation.
Well,
If
we've
someone's got to
noticed
start
it.
putting stuff on, people might stay.
We've noticed it, if you talk about disciplines, as I said, FITAS will always be my sort of first love in clay shooting. But back in the day, a FITAS selection shoot or a championship was a 2-day shoot, and it was all day. It might only be 75 targets a day or whatever, but it was all day. And we used to play cards and, do all sorts of things between layouts and stuff along those lines. Where FITAS is struggling at the moment, I believe, in the UK is it's in that real catch-22 situation, because you can go and shoot a lot of sporting shoots. You can rock up, you spend 2 hours, shoot it, jump in the car and go to either another one or go and do something else. Because that's now becoming the norm for a lot of the disciplines, people don't want to stay all day long to shoot 100 targets or whatever. So a lot of grounds are experimenting with this sort of 50 break 50. Some even shoot 100 straight through, but it's trying to find that balance, because you've got still a lot of old school shooters that are traditionalists and want the 2-day or the whole 1-day event. And then you've got all the younger generation, I'll call them, or the shooters that haven't been doing it for so long. They don't want to invest or can't invest a whole day to it. So, of course, it's a very, very difficult situation for organisers to do and grounds to do, and in the end they go, well, we won't bother. If we don't get the entries, we won't bother putting it on because it's time consuming and expensive and this, that and the other. So we ran a survey at one of our shoots about 3 years ago. Had about 150 shooters there, and I sent out a questionnaire to pretty much all of them, asking them about the format, about the event, about the type of target, etc., etc. And most of the stuff came back almost 50-50. Half of them want it all day, half of them want it over and done with. Half of them want big, hard, old school targets. Half of them want new, modern European targets. And because you're never going to please everyone, it's like, what do you do? And then, because there's also, as you said, so many other events on, why would they do that? Just go, oh, forget that one, we'll go and shoot. Last weekend while Top Gun was on, you had Jack Pike, you had there were so many. I mean, it's absolutely impossible trying to put every event in a calendar. Well, you can't do it. If you're trying to do selection shoots and championships and international events, as well as, the Top Guns and the Jack Pikes and the Pro ones and the Express Masters. There's so many of them. Yeah.
That's it. I mean, Hodnet this weekend,
Oh
wasn't it?
yeah, Sovereign Change. Yeah, of course. Yeah. You shouldn't
It's
forget them.
just because I was debating swinging by and shooting on my way to France, but I thought, no, I need to be good. I've got Eurocash this week, and then I've got French National Championships next week, then British Open Super Sporting, and then I am actually having a break in August.
What, you having a couple of days off?
Yeah, well, only because my September's gone insane now as well. So I've got the French Petit Calibre out here, possibly the clay shooting Beretta, and that's the weekend I've got to get back home. So like, and then we've got there's the Zolly Masters in September.
I think the difficult thing though as well, and you touched on it earlier, is obviously it's not a cheap sport. It has become more expensive. Pro rata, when I first started shooting a shotgun, we used to pay about £37 1,000 for our cartridges. When I was shooting sort of competitive clays, when I got into that, they were like £80 1,000. Today they range anywhere from £300 to £400 1,000. But everything I think is relevant in the sense that, I won't say what a gallon of fuel was back in, the mid 80s, but cartridges should be at £400 1,000 if they'd gone up with inflation like everything
When in
else.
wine,
Unfortunately, they didn't. I mean, at 2005, there was still £100,000. Then all of a sudden they went. Clays have obviously gone up, but then we've sort of said all the little clubs that used to run at weekends, they've all folded. None of those run anymore. And all that is left are proper functional businesses. And, you look at the overheads for, the aforementioned clubs like, Eaton Hall or Coley's or Barbary or any of them. I mean, they've got a lot of bills to pay, even if you just count the machines.
yeah,
A machine, 3, 4, 5,000 pounds. I mean, some of the grounds have got 150 machines. It's all got to be paid for. I think the only thing that I struggle to get my head around is, and obviously it sounds silly with the Top Gun that's just happened, but that was an anomaly. If you look at your costs today, be it fuel, be it cartridges, be it clays, be it entry fees, whatever, the only one thing that has never changed is the prize winnings.
mm,
Um, you know, 40 years ago, you could win £100 high gun off of a 50 bird shoot. Today you'll win £100 high gun off of a full blown registered shoot. Now there'll be probably a lot of ground owners and this that, and the other screaming down the sets at the moment, going, "Oh yeah, but you only get what you pay for." And I think a lot of people forget that. You know, if you've ever run a business, I think you understand, obviously, that you do have overheads, you do have costs and everything else.
yeah,
Somebody actually said to me only last week, they won a registered shoot. It was over 100 shooters and that was there. And I think they won about £80. Um, but I said, yeah, but you got an £80 return for your fiver.
yeah,
You know, you can't turn around and say, oh, well, it cost me 50 quid to enter and I only got 70 back or whatever. You didn't. You paid £45 for the business and for the facilities and you actually paid a fiver and 180. Now that's actually not a bad return. And obviously years gone by, the guys that were running the weekend shoots, they didn't have the overheads. They didn't have the taxman or VAT, and clays are obviously a lot cheaper, and they didn't pay their
yeah,
pullers or trackers an awful lot of money. So, they didn't need to make, they didn't have insurances to the level that grounds have got now and stuff like that. So it is difficult. But then if you turn around and say, well, okay, if you want a £500, per class prize pot, everybody's got to put in 40 quid.
yeah.
Well, if you're paying £45 for the privilege of shooting and then paying another £40 for the prize pot, that won't work.
No, it's not going to get many times. I mean, I said on a Facebook group probably 3 years ago, I would get rid of. I might have changed my opinion on it a bit now, to be fair. But by then, why have we got targets only? Just make
Yeah.
everyone pay the fiver competition. You're going to have bigger prize funds. It's a fiver. It's not even half. It's half a box of shells.
Yeah.
And when shooting France and stuff, there's no option for targets only and stuff.
No.
You just enter in a competition.
Yeah.
But I got absolutely flamed in the comments.
And
You
you
think I
will.
told them to spend 100 quid or something?
I
Like
know.
it's a fiver. If you look at the cost of everything that you're paying to go there, fuel and all that. Yeah, but what about when you move up a class and you can't win that class?
I think the thing that's difficult there is there's an element of shooters today that obviously are driven by scores, are driven by prizes, podium positions, that are competitive and want to work up through the classes and this, that, and the other. There are an awful lot of what I call recreational shooters that actually don't give a monkeys about that. They maybe got put in a class that, to be fair, unless they're going to spend a lot of money having lessons or some good advice or do a lot of practice, they're never going to achieve any rewards in that class. So in their eyes, why should they put into a pot that they've got no chance of getting anything out of? So I do fully understand both sides of it. I would actually much rather probably turn the whole thing on its head and take all prize money away. Then there is nothing there, and have sponsored prizes. Now, there'll be people screaming, and I know how hard it is to get sponsorship, but there'll be sponsored prizes and stuff along those lines. But Eaton Hall, with what they did at Top Gun, will never struggle to get sponsors.
No.
Because they did the event properly. And I think
a real showcase, wasn't it? That's
I think we've got way too many registered competitions. We've got way too many titled shoots that actually are just a title dreamt up to try and create more revenue. And I think if they...
To give an example?
You said about editing bits out. No, but there are an awful lot of titled shoots that actually, there's the World 410 Championships that will get 40 entries. Well, it's not a world championship if it gets 40 entries. Do you know what I mean? It's those sorts of things. I know they're all important to the grounds that are putting them on, and everybody's fighting for business because there is only so much money to go around. But I think back in the day, you won't remember this, but some of the listeners and that will. Michael Brunton used to own a publishing magazine called Clay Shooting. And we used to have the Clay Shooting Classic running through the 90s. And we had a leg in St. Petersburg in Russia. We had one in America. But they were along the lines of Top Gun, and they were festivals of shooting. And they gave away cars. They gave away, it was incredible, but they were all sponsored prizes. And I know it's different, but when Sky Sports used to sponsor, Embassy, the cigarette company did, Breitling used to, Rolex used to. Now, I know we've lost them because of the stigma of guns and all that goes around it, but only we can change that. It's only through, I looked at the hit rate that Top Gun had with their media coverage and everything else, the channels that you do, and what have you, the more you can put clay shooting on the map. I mean, I'm not being funny. In the last 25 years, in the last 5 Olympics, we've had 3 gold medalists.
Yeah.
And BBC don't want to cover it, because it's guns and it's not PC and this, that, and the other. But that doesn't mean to say we shouldn't be covering it. And we should be sharing that on every platform. The amount of people that I talk to now versus 20 years ago, they've gone on stag doos, they've had a go at clay shooting, they go to the local clubs. They may not be in the CPSA, they may not be in a governing body and may not shoot competitive clays, but they're having a go at it. And although we don't have very many members and our voice isn't very big on the scale of things, there's an awful lot of people that actually do understand what clay... I won't call it clay pigeon shooting, it's clay target shooting. Clay pigeon shooting to me needs changing. I had a woman 10 years ago going, "What, you shoot real pigeons?" I went, "No, it's clay pigeons." "What, real clay pigeons?" And I'm like, "No, they're just call it a target, call it what it is."
I get that. I mean, my friend Peter else tells a story of they used to go to a shoot and the person in their office was like, "Oh, as if you're out shooting them." So they took one in a box and said, "Here, we brought you one, but if you cook it, make sure you slow cook it, won't you?"
It might be a bit tough.
So up and they're like, "Oh," so it's a clay pigeon. It's not a real pigeon. Yeah. Which I remember the CPSA put a consultation, or they put something out to say they were looking into doing it.
Yeah, I know. Obviously,
pushed back to them at that point. Where
I think the cost also incurred. Is very, very difficult. But I think if everybody that took part in it called it clay target shooting as opposed to clay, maybe not change the name of the organisation, but everybody just refer it to something different. We've had a lot of, changes with the referees. They call it 1s and 0s now, not kill and loss. It's funny, target descriptions also changed. Any of us, and I mean, you've got a teal or you've got a duck or you've got, but the one that will never ever cease is the rabbit.
Well, they even call it a rabbit in France rather than lapin, which is French for rabbit.
But in France, nobody cares what you shoot and this, that, and the other. But
that's true.
I do think to change the mentality of how we're perceived and what we do, because it is a sport, and the sports people and the athletes that compete in it, they're putting a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of effort into it. And it's down to us as individuals that take part in it to change it. We
Definitely.
can't rely on an
I mean, I've said it
organisation to do it. But
to a few people, like, it's very unlikely it's ever going to be on TV. Not just from the guns aspect, but just it's so difficult to film and try and do live.
it
You
is.
can
I
do
mean,
ways around it.
do you
But
ever remember
it's on the white gold
Starshot?
cups and stuff. Yeah, I've seen videos of Starshot.
Yeah, so Starshot again. We did a pro celebrity. This is in the late. I'm going to show my age again. Late 70s and 80s, and this that, and the other. We had a KCS Starshot League. Where we used to go around, and BBC Two used to film it, and we had a pro celebrity where you get Botham and Jackie Stewart and all that used to shoot on it. And that was good fun. But we are, again, technology has changed. Obviously there's the ability to use flash plays, cameras and that have all changed now. A lot of stuff in America, a lot of their filming equipment, I know it's expensive, but they can slow it down. And our biggest problem is we're not a spectator sport. You get a very loud bang and the clay either breaks or it doesn't break. And, unlike any other sport, with darts or snooker or anything like that, if somebody Tiger Woods misses a 40-yard putt, everybody sees it, don't they? If George misses a 40-yard teal, did he miss it by an inch or did he miss it by a yard? Nobody really knows. So we're never going to attract big crowds, like national television crowds and this, that, and the other. We're not going to get that. But I do think there is the possibility. There's a lot of money in the sport. You pull up at any shooting ground and walk around a car park. Look at the vehicles that are there. So I think it's wrong to keep hammering gun manufacturers, cartridge manufacturers. I think, they do all they can do. I think we do have to look outside the box for that. But the only way that's going to happen is if we drive it from ourselves. And we, again, you look at Eaton Hall with 500 people at the prize giving and the shoot-offs and that at the end. Yeah, that's a sponsor's dream. You go and give a gun away for the English Open sporting, and at the end of the day, there's 40 people there.
That's it. And you get a picture in Pool magazine. That's it.
Yeah.
But this is some of the things that frustrate me because, I just keep saying to people, getting on TV is going to be difficult, but there's a massive audience on YouTube.
Yeah.
The channel we started with, Brett, we've done, what's on there now, maybe 30 videos. 5,000 people are signed up to watch it and not get notified when a video comes out. Plus, one of them about shooting skeet for sport and about 50,000 views.
Yeah.
And that's just little old us making a few videos on the ground,
We did, literally, we obviously had the European compacts in France 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago. We did a few little interviews with some of the team, and this, that, and the other, and just posted them on our Facebook page. And we had over that week and the week following that, there was over 720,000 views on there. And the thing is that's great about it, and it's the same with obviously Brett. Yes, we've got a lot of shooters in the UK, but there's an awful lot of shooters around the world that love watching and seeing. UK, we may not be a dominant force anymore on the podiums, but we are still very much a dominant force in terms of leading the way in terms of the shoots themselves. One of the great things that I've been very fortunate to benefit from is obviously all the years of shooting internationally and shooting with the teams is you meet people all around the world. You make some phenomenal friends. And now obviously with social media, with YouTube and everything else, that can reach anybody in any corner of the globe. The Pool magazine is only ever going to reach a handful of people in the UK. So I think things that you do and stuff like that does reach a much bigger audience. And I'm sure there's opportunities to be had from sponsors off the back of that. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but if it keeps going and it keeps building momentum and we clean up the sort of the image of clay target shooting a little bit, And that's not just the image of, a safety point of it. I think the whole sport needs to clean its image up a little bit. The way people behave, the way people conduct themselves sometimes at shoots. I see some atrocious behaviour. I see some atrocious dress codes, and I'm not the snappiest dresser at all. But, again, at major events, let's just try and lift it a notch. And
I
make
think
it
the thing I found interesting, having shot in America a couple of times now and in France, that they seem to be a lot more joined up as a community. There's a lot more, everyone's pulling together and wants to see it do well. Is that my naive view? Or?
No, you're 100% correct. I think one of the world's worst things is the British mentality in terms of sportsmanship.
Yeah.
You can go. I've seen it, obviously, over the years. I've seen it a lot. If you shoot really, really well, you must have cheated. If you shoot poorly, then you'll get slated for being crap. Nobody ever, very few do you turn around and get, oh, well done, that was a brilliant performance. I think there's an awful lot of jealousy in the UK. I think maybe because we're competing against each other all the time, but then so are the Americans. I just don't think the sportsmanship is there.
No.
I really don't. I think, yeah, I don't like it personally. And I mean, again, I can talk from an international point of view. Nobody can be more proud to put on the GB uniform than me and go and represent my country. I know an awful lot of very good British shooters that have that opportunity and don't want it. Now, some I get, they may not want it for performance reasons. If it affects their shooting and this and the other, which it very much will do or can do. But a lot of people just like, can't be bothered. There's no pride.
Yeah.
I won't say that for everyone. That's really unfair, but I hear it a lot, and that's really disappointing.
To do it.
When people don't want to shoot for their country or won't put their country first, that to me, I can never get my head around that. And I talk to a lot of international shooters that shoot for their country. You're in France, all the French guys. They've got a really strange rule, obviously with their compact teams and their FITAS parkour teams, where you can't compete in both. That I can't get my head around. I mean, they still seem to win both very well, but it's when our best shooters on paper or even on performance either don't want to do our selection process, or even if they get an opportunity to go in the team, don't want to do it. I find that very frustrating.
And do you think they've got a valid point around the selection process? Because there's a lot of touring about.
Yeah, and again, with so many other events on, the sport has changed, and it is difficult. And obviously, if I go back, certainly through the 90s, even into the early 2000s, we used to be fully funded. Pretty much as a GB team. I mean, I shot in New Zealand in the World Championships in 2002. I think that cost me 500 quid. And European events, we used to have to pay £300 as an individual contribution. World event was £500. But we used to have a team hotel.
Yeah.
We used to travel as a team in full dress uniform at an airport, all meet up and this, that and the other. We used to stay as a team. We used to train as a team. And we were very, very successful. Very successful. The last world gold medal, if I'm correct in saying this, in the men's, not in the other categories, but in the open team, I won't say that. In the open team, I think was 2005. And the last European gold we had, this is just in FITAS, obviously, the last European gold was in 2013. And the 2013 one sticks in my mind vividly for numerous reasons, but it's very difficult to say to anyone, you need to travel, you need to take your uniform, you need to be at the opening ceremony for this time, you need to parade with the team, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do the other, and by the way, we'll pay you entry fee.
Yeah.
You know, you can't say, "Can you stay in this hotel?" Because some people will wanna stay in a cheaper hotel, some people wanna stay in a
Yeah.
more if we're paying for it, if it's all fully funded, fine, you can dictate terms and ask for certain things. But when you're asking everybody to do it off their own back, you can't really. And I get really frustrated because I suppose I saw it when we were as a team. And when you look at the Americans, when they come over, look at the French, the Italians, they come over, they have a team hotel, they stay in, they stay together. Yes, they're competing against each other, don't get me wrong, but they have that unit and that structure going forward.
Yeah.
We have it where some of our squad will see everybody at the opening ceremony and then they'll see everybody again at the closing ceremony 4 days later and they won't see anybody in between. That's not a team.
No.
That really isn't. And I
I'd say
feel
you're
sorry
just putting your
for,
score in for the team squad, aren't you, at that point? You're just putting your scorecard in, I guess.
and Mickey Rouse, anybody that's been around knows Mickey. I mean, he's a phenomenal shooter, won Europeans and worlds, and he's a great guy. He said to me probably 20 years ago now, I suppose, when he shoots for himself. He will go into a team, and be honored to take that team place, but he will shoot for himself. And if he
That's it.
shoots well, that benefits the team. I can't perform like that. I'm totally different. I shoot for the team. I don't even give myself a second thought. Every clay is shot for the team. It's just different mentalities. People deal with it in different ways. I've had some really good friends of mine and very talented shooters that have made the team, and literally they've gone out, they've put the badge on for the first time, and that badge weighs heavy, and they've crumbled. Because they don't want to let the team down. They don't want to let their teammates down and this, that, and the other.
That's it. It's a different pressure, isn't it?
Oh,
It's
it's very different, very different. So it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I don't know the answer. I don't know how we're going to get it back. I'd love to see more team spirit, but to do that, we need money.
Yeah. Do you think? So I would say there's the money aspect. People, if if they're going to the shoot anyway, yes, they might put the badge on, but if they weren't going, are they going to make an exception to get there when it's going to cost them? But is it also some, because like you were saying there about some of our top shots just not interested in shooting for the GB team or the England team? Is it because it's lost some of its accolade? Some people just don't see it as that important anymore. Why that is, I don't know.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think, like I said, when I was trying to get into the teams, the best shooters in the country were in the team and remained in the team. And, you always knew that 3 of the top 6 were always going to be in it. And then there was probably 5 or 6 of us fighting for that last place. The first time I made the team, the pressure that I felt was absolutely incredible. It was absolutely ridiculous. Sean Bramley, John Bidwell. I mean, the people that I shot with in the team, it was just like, I shouldn't even be here. But we managed to become victorious. And I think in the early days for me, probably for about the first 8 or 9 years of me being in the team, we never lost a gold medal. We really didn't. We won gold at every European and every world, and Great Britain were the force to be reckoned with. Then we did lose funding, which did change the team atmosphere, the team spirit. People were staying in different places, and it doesn't matter how much you try and pull it together. If you've got people that aren't socializing together, aren't talking together, aren't training together, aren't working together. No matter how good you are, we had an event, and I don't think anybody didn't mind me, sharing this. We had an event, European Championship back in 2015, I think it was, something like that, 2016. The selection process was made very open and very accessible for a lot of people. And the team consisted of George, Mark Windsor, Ben Huthwaite, and Stuart Rudlin, another very talented shooter. That was the four-man open team. On paper, they should wipe the floor with everybody. But we all know that they're four individuals that are competing for themselves and bidding for the title themselves. And we also know that there's obviously not a lot of love lost between certain combinations of those people. And they ended up taking a bronze medal. The following year, I was fortunate enough to be back in the team with three others that are nowhere near, on paper, in the same league as those people. And we took a bronze medal. And the four of us stayed in the same hotel. We did everything together. I talked about, the last time we won a European gold. I think it was 2013 or 2014. 2013, I think it was, in France. It was Kevin Joblin, Mark Windsor, Kevin Mayer, and myself. And the four of us, we literally did everything pretty much together. Kevin brought his wife out, but we travelled out in a car. We all literally supported each other all the way through. And that was the last time I can honestly say I really felt we were working as one. And we beat the French. We won gold, but we beat the French by one clay. And that was tight. But I know we've got the ability to get back at the top. We've got enough very talented shooters. I just don't know what we have to do to get them to want to shoot for their country, want to represent their country. I guess they don't want to go through the selection process. But then you can't have a selection process for all the other categories and not one for the open team. If otherwise it just makes a mockery of it. Unfortunately, our classification system isn't good enough because there's too many shoots and there's not enough control over it. I came up with an idea a while back, and this is more probably I thought about it more for sponsorship than anything else, but because there's so many registered events on and everything else, I would actually give everybody two classifications. I'd give them what I call a club classification. So if you go and shoot a normal 100 registered at your local club or local ground or any of those, you have a club classification. And I know an awful lot of good shooters that would be club class treble A. But then I would have a pro classification. So I would take the English, the British, probably some of the other events like Top Gun, maybe like Pro One, like the Sovereign Challenge, or some of the England selection shoot, the team selection shoots. I would probably have a dozen championships, of which you must count, let's say, 8 of them.
Okay.
And you'd actually be classified on those, including the Worlds and this, that, and the other, World Sporting. So you might have a club treble A class, but actually be a pro B class shooter.
Yeah, it makes sense. Oh, and you'd use that then just for the championship?
And I think it would be better. It would be better for a lot of reasons. For sponsors, you could go out and you can be a very good shooter at your local club, and you can go and get a high CPSA classification. I think their rules are you have to shoot 3 different grounds. Well,
I don't even know if that's true.
I thought
you have to 300 targets in any discipline.
Yeah, I thought it was from 3 different grounds, or maybe that's for the top 20. Perhaps I don't know.
That might be. Yeah, I think my first classification I'd only shot 2 clubs.
Yeah. But you get a lot of people, and I hear it a lot, where obviously this comes back to making life really difficult for course setters and everything else, because obviously you can go and shoot your local ground, And you can go banging in 90s all day long. You go and shoot a tough English Open that, Steve Lovett put on or something, and you don't perform well, then you slate the ground, you slate the course setter, oh, well, I normally shoot 90, but I only shot 67 here. Well,
Yeah.
maybe, just maybe, you're not at that level. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it would be.
It's certainly an interesting one. I've had this chat a few times with different people because I know some grounds where I know it's softer and I've probably got a chance of winning my class.
Yep.
If I go. I know I've got other grounds where I find the targets tougher, the scores are always lower, but someone will probably bang in a pretty good scoring class.
Yep.
Now, is that just that I don't like them targets as much? But when you look at the averages, it is different. So you got then, the only way to get a true average is to go around to lots of different shoots.
And you have to have X amount of those as compulsory shoots.
Yeah.
And that's why I said if you had a pro classification, you would have to shoot. If you didn't shoot 7 of the 10 championships or whatever, you're unclassified. You don't get a class. You've got a club class, and there's nothing wrong with your club class, and there's nothing wrong with people aspiring to be AA, AAA, whatever, but I think there's an awful lot of people that are in a class that is beyond their ability at a championship.
Yeah.
So it's a way of addressing that. I think it's also
would doing points from high gun do it? Because we do that for selections, don't we?
I think the points from high gun is the only way to do a true reflection of the shoot and your performance. I wouldn't do it just off of high gun. I would actually take the top 3.
Yeah.
If you took the top 3 undivided, so you had a 95, a 97 and a 99, you add those 3 together, that course is a 97. If you shoot an 89, that's a AA performance on that course on that day. It's not a treble A performance. I think also if you did it the other way and you went and shot on a day where the weather was atrocious or the wind was blowing and the shoot was won on an 86 and there were 2 85s behind it, yep, the winning score is 85.6. So if you shoot a 79, that's actually a treble A performance on that course on that day in those conditions. But of course, the CPSA's chart table for whatever you want to do would put you in B class. Well, actually, you didn't shoot a B class performance on that, and then I think you would get more accurate feedback and performance related. And that's easy to do nowadays.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, obviously, in the past, working even on a spreadsheet database to do it would be tricky, but surely that's a simple fix into the software to
it is now
spit that out for each shoot now.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, I was talking with some Americans because their classification system is just bonkers to me. Because everybody punches up into masterclass, and you've got people in the top class who are shooting 55, 60% and less sometimes.
Yeah.
But they don't automatically go back down.
No.
The fact they used to be able to refuse a down class, I'm not sure if they're trying to remove that at the minute. Right. It's not going down right well. But I don't get that. As someone who wants to compete, why would I won't want to be shooting in treble A right now because I don't be competitive.
No.
So I won't be the point. But,
no. The other thing as well that I don't understand is, if you go and play golf and you got a golf handicap, you have a round of golf tomorrow and your new revised handicap is in every golf course, every golf club by Wednesday morning. Yes, it's much better now. The CPSA are doing it, I think, 4 times a year now, or certainly 3. But
yeah, it's every 3 months, but it gets confusing because you have the cut-off, then you have a month where you still got your old class because it cuts off, then you've got a month and then it updates.
Yeah.
So someone asked me about it, a friend who's only been shooting registered for a while, and I'm trying to explain it to him, and you've 3 key dates you need to look at. What do you mean? So, you've got a cut-off and then it's your scores back for 12 months. then any shoots you do that following month, you're still going to have that classification because that won't come into effect until the month after, and then you're on to your new classification, but you've already got that month's in that. I said, just look at the averages, scores, and classification page. It's easy for it. So
I suppose because I never have to worry about. Well, I say I never have to worry. I never think about it. To me, a score is just a number. To me, it's all about performance. You know, I don't really.
I'd like to get there.
No, but
I'll tell you why I were looking at it again because I shot pool last year. I mean, we were shooting a lot of the bigger shoots, and some of it where we just started filming with Brett, and I'd go to a registered filming Brett and try and shoot it at the same time, which just didn't work.
Sorry, just 2 seconds, Mike. So, would you just grab me my power lead? Sure. For it. So I'm going to run out of power.
No worries.
Yeah, go
on. So I clicked on the website for something and realised I'd gone back down to C class. Like, okay, I knew I'd performed badly, but I didn't know it was quite that bad. So I had like a month where, because I was been shooting better now.
Yeah.
I won a couple of C class. I think won by quite a distance. Nearly got high gun at Manchester. Or like 5 off high gun and dropped to loading. So everyone's like, "You sandbagger!" Like I wasn't trying to.
Yeah.
It just happened.
I think.
So I don't think. I think it's impossible to get a perfect system. To me, points from high guns are the best option because I know people who go shoot soft shoot.
Yeah. But I think it also
going back down.
Takes the pressure off of the course setter. At the end of the day, I know the sport has changed. We touched on it earlier, but the sport has changed dramatically, and very much now we are in the entertainment industry. Shooters want to be entertained. We're spending all this amount of money taking part in what we do, and we want to enjoy it. Nobody wants to go to a shoot and literally miss. Nobody gets any enjoyment out of that. And I think it's very, very hard to go when you're setting a course, you've got to think, well, I've got to cater for the B's and C's. I've got to cater for the A's, but I've also got to make it tricky enough to challenge the treble A's because I'm trying to cater for all classes. I'm finding that balance is very difficult. A lot of the top shooters, do struggle. I struggle. I hate turning up to a shoot knowing that if I don't shoot 98 or more, I'm not going to be in with a shout. I prefer the harder shoots, but then I get other people, some of my students, when I'm taking some of my students out and I know that we've got to work on certain things, I don't want to take them to a course where they're going to get battered because they're just going to get demoralized. So I think for those that are interested in classes and categories and prizes and this, that, and the other, I think points from high gun, because you can go and shoot 80. If you shoot, if high gun's an 80 and you shoot a 70, to me, you should be more focused on your performance rather than on the number you walk away with. John Bidwell said to me many, many, many years ago, I shot one year, we had 4 GBs FITAS selection shoots, and it was all random squadding back there. And one particular year, I was fortunate enough to end up in John's squad for all 4 shoots. And it was at the time when George had just, Biddy had just released his book, Move, Mount, Shoot, and everything else, and he'd go into a stand and he'd shoot and he'd like get on a target and he'd track it for like 15, 20 yards across the sky and then pull the trigger and he'd kill it or whatever. But as he'd come out, I go, what part of Move, Mount, Shoot was that then? And he's like, oh, well, I don't use it all the time. And I'm like, yeah, okay. But fast forward a year on from that, we were down at in Yeovil, actually, a shooting ground down there called the Cafe. And we were on different squads, and John had just got back off the bus, walking back towards the clubhouse. And obviously, I sort of spoke to him and said, "Oh, how you doing?" He said, "You know what?" He said, "I'm shooting ever so well." He said, "It's just the clays aren't breaking." And I'm like, okay. didn't really know how to take it, thought he was a silly sod, when he said it. And it probably wasn't for 10 years after that I actually appreciated exactly what he meant. And the thing is, you can go out, if you go out tomorrow and you shoot and you do the perfect approach, setup, hold points, kill point, you do everything perfect and you shoot an 80 out of 100, it doesn't matter about the number. It's the fact that you did the process perfectly. If you go out another
Yeah,
time
just got the lead right.
and you get it all wrong and you shoot an 85, yes, your performance might be higher, but actually you didn't do anything at all. We've all seen it where we go into a stand, we're looking for a target and somebody goes, it's gone. And you just like, oh shit, fling the gun over there and end up breaking it. Well, yes, you got away with it, but that's the worst shot because everything was wrong about the shot. Yes, you broke the clay, but to me, I think it's more
someone
important.
who manages to do that quite a lot, yeah.
If it works, yeah.
Oh, it's shooting with Sam a bit ago. Like, you've used 3 different methods on this stand, did you know? And yeah, I just set off a bit too soon on that one, a bit late on the next one,
Yeah.
But that's why I'm a B-class shooter. And I like you say, need to work on the process. But it's interesting, like you say, it's a changing mindset. It's the process rather than the outcome in it.
I always try to look upon it from a point of view. If you're going out shooting and this, that, and the other, if you're building a house, okay, it can be the best house in the world, all right. But if you haven't got the foundations right, if you don't have all the groundwork done properly, doesn't matter how pretty that house is, how lovely it looks, it's likely to fall over. It won't stand the test of time. To me, everything you do goes on what's below the ground. If you get the foundations right, whatever you then build on top of it will actually stand. So I sort of, try to install that with obviously all of my students before you call pull, you have to make sure you've got all of your foundations correct. It's funny, we, back in the day, we used to talk about, doing your apprenticeship. So people would come into the sport, they've only been in it, a bit like you, 5 minutes, as such on the scale of things. And expectations are really high. And they're like, oh yeah, but you've only been doing it a year. You shouldn't be expecting to go and shoot 90. You haven't done, we've done 30 years of apprenticeship. We've learned this, we've learned that. But actually, yes, we have. And we've spent a lot of time and a lot of effort, fine tuning it. But actually, for what? If it's in work, normally your apprenticeship means that you're learning a trade, and at the end of it, your rewards will be higher. Well, actually, we're the other way. We actually do our apprenticeship, we learn it, we get into treble A, and our rewards are lower. So, but I think it is, for me anyway, it's very important to work on, the structure of things going through.
That probably leads nicely then into, because like touched on there, you have a number of students and you do coaching. Is that something you've done for a while, or?
Yeah, I mean, I hate seeing anybody miss a clay. So
You don't want to shoot with me then?
no, but I mean, I'd go out, we'd go down to like the local club or whatever, and I'd take the other half out and we'd just go for a practice or a shot or whatever it may be. And I'd see somebody on the stand and they're missing, and it would be a simple fix, a relatively simple fix, or you can see something they're drastically doing wrong. And I can't help myself. If I see somebody missing, I naturally want to try to put them right, because again, I don't compete against any of my fellow shooters. When I book into a competition, I'm buying 100 targets, and what I do with my 100 targets and what you do with yours, what somebody else does with theirs, I have no control over what you do with yours. So to me, I've bought 100 targets and I need to do the best I can do on my 100. Simple as that. And if I manage my 100 better than anybody else, I win. So if I see somebody struggling, I will always want to get them to hit targets, because it's why we're doing it. To see somebody just constantly missing is just really frustrating. So I started sort of helping a few people out. I like working with sort of youngsters with sort of blank canvases and things along those lines, because then it's really easy to sort of elevate them on and go through. But I used to get people that were in the teams, very talented shooters, that would just have a problem with a particular target. And they would like come along and go, right, I'm really struggling with teal. So we just analyze what you're doing. And all of a sudden we'd find a fault and we'd, try and rectify it and put it forward. And gradually it just went on from there. I, I won't teach anybody that doesn't listen. I've terminated lessons before because I'm too old and long in the tooth to waste my time with someone that doesn't want to listen. I am there really to help people, and I will do my utmost and give them my all. But if you're not going to listen, I've got better things to do with my time. But for those that do, I'm quite hard. I'm quite strict, but I'm very regimented with what I do. But I will never try to get anybody to shoot like me. I will try to get someone to just shoot better. Take what they're doing and make it better. I don't work with that many. I'm very fussy with people that I do work with, and everybody that I work with, I know them inside and out and back to front. Yes, I may only do a lesson a month with them, maybe even a lesson every 2 months, but they send me their scorecards every week. I get videos. We have conversations every night, about what they're doing, how they're doing it.
It's proper coaching then, not just...
Yeah, I mean, some of them I work on their diet, I work on their exercise. Depends on what weakness is part of their game. I tend to try to teach people to think. Shooting is actually quite easy. Breaking a clay is just physics. You've got two moving objects, you put them in the, right timing on things, they will break. When people sort of say, they'll go into a stand, they'll shoot a target, and then they'll miss the next one and go, well, I did it exactly the same as the one before. Well, you didn't. Well, the outcome would have been the same. And we do allow our brains sometimes to sort of confuse things. So, it's, there's a lot of grounds, and I think it's really important. I work with the Oxford University. They got a big shooting club with a lot of members and that there. And there's a lot of people coming into the sport, and I think it's really paramount that they do go to a club and find an instructor. Most shooting grounds have instructors, and I think it's important for anyone to go there and learn the basics. Which end of the gun is safe, which isn't, footwork, gun hold, basic gun fit, and this, that, and the other. Get an idea, get a concept, because you don't want to be paying a coach the sort of money that a good coach should charge. You don't want to be paying that if you're not reaping the benefits of that knowledge or that experience. So it's trying to get them to get to a certain level and then find a good coach, whatever, that will take them to the next level. And there is no one coach can fix everything. There really isn't. I've had students of mine where they've said, oh, I'm really struggling this, and we will try and work it out. And I actually go, do you know what? Go and spend an hour with this person, and they will, and they'll fix that problem and then come back, because I think that's really important. I learned a lot from numerous different people and watching other people, but yeah,
it's an interesting one. I think, like I say, so I taught myself for a long time. It's not true. I had a have a go session that we organised for work, because I'd start going a little bit with some friends, and met a great guy on there who got me going, like say, with the basics, what to do, how to hold the gun, what lead was, a little bit about methods and stuff like that, and just got me out shooting really. But then my family found an instructor on the CPSA website, and I won't name the guy, and booked a session with him. Went up, and it was just a disaster. Yeah, I had me standing there trying to get. Funnily enough, you mentioned move, mount, shoot. They were trying to get me to do that, and they were putting me in a position. And I've got a problem with my spine, and it's hurting my back. I'm like, no, it's just because you don't know. You haven't stood in that position before. And it was a 2-hour lesson, and we spent the first hour just doing that in this room. And then he went off to set the straps up, got a flat tire on his Polaris, finally come back after about 20-25 minutes, and I shot just over 1 box of shells in the 2 hours, and then the batteries went on his trap, and you're like, well, that's about the 2 hours anyway. And I just thought, well, it's been ripped off here. Yeah. You know what I mean? It was and it really put me off for a long time. And then when I started doing more competitions and got to know a few different sorts of people online, that's when I ended up having lessons with Ben Usworth because I'd seen his stuff online.
Yeah.
But the difference between a proper coach and an instructor, now I'm not knocking instructors, I've done little bits myself.
No, and they are very important.
Absolutely.
For a place. And I think anybody new coming into it is absolutely fine. But you're right, even with an instructor or with a coach, you've got to click with that person.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to have an understanding.
You've got to find someone that works for you. Like you say, you've got quite a firm, regimented style. It's not going to work for everybody.
Nope.
And similarly, too soft a style will work for others. It wouldn't for me. No. I need people to tell me off, otherwise I don't listen.
Yeah. But you've got to, and again, everybody sees, it always makes me laugh, when I watch little groups of people going out and they talk about, lead. I can take 3 of my students out. Funny enough, yesterday I took 3 of them out. They can all stand in the stand. They can all shoot exactly the same target. They can all use exactly the same method. One will see about 1 inch off their barrel. One will see probably about 1 meter, and one will see 4 meters, and all 3 of them will hit the target.
Yeah.
So of course I can say, regardless of who it is, I can say, right, for you need to give this target 1.5 meters. You need to give this target 1/4 inch off the edge of the barrel. But it's understanding what they do. I don't work per hour. I never do. I work on a session. And the session's over when we've covered enough and you're mentally past doing any more. I remember doing a session back during COVID, and obviously it was at a time when nobody could shoot, all the shooting grounds were closed and this, that and the other, but it was a good friend of mine, and they live on a farm and they could do pigeon shooting and other bits and bobs, but of course they owned a couple of clay traps, so we went and set them up on a quad. And we had to emulate that we were pigeon shooting. So it's not like a clay shoot. And we had a similar thing where I think we probably spent 2.5 hours and she fired 25 cartridges. She actually admitted that she learned more in that time. We threw probably 300 clays. And we did a lot of dummy runs and a lot of, clicking with snap caps in the gun and this and that. We couldn't fire the gun because of noise and other bits and bobs. But we went through the process and went through the shot and this, that and the other. And it just goes to show you don't always need to pull the trigger, but you do need to do the process and everything else going through. But I can't teach anybody to shoot how I shoot. I just have to see what they've got. I mean, another friend of mine who, I spend a little bit of time with now and again, actually runs a shooting ground. You can tell him until you're blue in the face what errors he's doing, and he knows what error, and he'll put it right. 3 pairs later, it will go straight back, and he's like, "Oh, I forgot." And he's been shooting as long as I have, and you just. I love him to bits, but he will just never listen because it just will not compute in his head. He just can't remember. And some of those you just have to accept. But I love it. I get as much satisfaction out of watching any of my guys. I hear
that from a lot of coaches. You don't find it affects your shooting?
No, I don't, because I have a process. I have 5 or 6 sort of key structures to my shoot, to my pre-shot. and that never changes.
Mm.
So everybody everybody moans because I talk too much and I'm very sociable, and I will literally be on the stand. I'll have a look at the targets. As long as I've got my structure and my process, I can then talk to anyone. And then they shout, "Oh, Matt, it's you. You're on." Well, it's like flicking a switch, and then I flick it in. So um, I shoot everybody else's clays anyway because I'm quite a mechanical shooter in my mind, and regimented with what I do. Um, whether a plane flies over, a bird flies over, a car drives by, I'm analysing the structure
Mm.
and turning it into a shot anyway. So if I'm standing behind a shooter, um, I'm seeing what I would do the same time as they're shooting. So no, to be fair, it doesn't, touch wood, it doesn't affect me, or
Yeah.
hasn't done
No,
as
it's
yet.
interesting. I've heard a couple of different people see it both ways.
Mm,
Someone I know felt they were probably doing a bit too much coaching
yeah.
and backed it off a bit because
Yeah, I mean,
they were sick of looking at targets.
yeah,
But then I've heard other coaches say, no, it only helps because I'm seeing that many targets
yeah,
all week that I'm learning, I'm understanding flight more
yeah,
and lines and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
so just on that, Matt, and obviously I don't have to ask you to give all your secrets away about your steps and that, but if you take like George is predominantly a swing through shooter.
Uh-huh.
I used to work with Brett, shoots 90% of things maintain lead. So obviously there's no one way to break a target.
Nice.
Do you have a preferred method, or
Yeah,
is it just a
yeah,
toolbox that you have to?
yeah. So my default method, my sort of go-to method, is a pull away. From an early age, I suppose it was always sort of bum belly beak bang. So I do mount and insert into the tail of a target, but I find it incredibly important to actually have a connection with the target.
Mm.
I can then hold the line of it, and then I pull through the target and pull away to whatever's right. There are times where uh, swing through swing throughs normally, if I end up doing a swing through, if I've got a poor hull point. If my hull point is wrong, the shot will turn into a swing through, but that's not intentional. Sometimes it happens. There are targets, that you will need to maintain lead. There are targets you will need to spot shoot, and this, that, and the other. Um, I I personally don't like maintained, purely because it's too much for me. It's too much of a reactional shot.
Mm.
If I've got a target here and I'm maintained in front of it, and as I'm going through that target, if the target drops, I've got to drop. If the target goes up, so I'm reacting to the target all the time. If I've got a connection with it and I'm holding the line of it, whether it's going up, coming down, it makes no odds to me. I'm on the target. Um, there's swing through. Swing through is great if you're very, very confident and your timing is absolutely bow on. To me, to accelerate to catch up a target, then control the acceleration through the target and hope you've got the line correct, you've got to be very confident and, like you say, your timing's right. For me, it wouldn't work. I prefer, a connection to it and then pull away. But yeah, you have to be confident enough to say, on that, I have to maintain it. Yeah, you got a screaming Batu that's quartering away somewhere. You ain't never going to connect and pull away from it. You've got to start off in front and just go and hope to God your gap's right.
Yeah,
That's
it's
how I see it.
so I find it interesting because like I say, there's no two shooters are the same.
No,
I
no.
mean, my style's changed a little bit. When I first started, it was pull away, swing through, blend really, because I'd mount behind a bird, track it, and then swing through the line. But I have
But you see,
developed a bit more since then.
because I'm very disciplined with a kill point, like break point, and then very disciplined with a hold point, my break point, I use a clock face to dictate the line of a target. Because very rarely of what we're shooting at, especially in sporting or in FITAS, very rarely is that target ever holding a true line and on a clock from either 9 to 3 or 3 to 9. It's always either doing something,
Mm.
and most targets are missed offline. Well, if you're using a swing through on a target, it's very difficult. If a target's coming down, you try and use swing through on a looping target. If you've got a dropping target coming down, a looper that's on the drop or a teal on the way down, you use a swing through on that. You can't, because you can't connect with it and swing through.
Yeah. Well, you're going to lose sight if it's a dropping
So
target.
just see what I mean. So I'm not saying you can't, because I'm sure people out there do, and yes, you might spot shoot it, or you might maintain it and let it drop into the gun. I know Ben uses a lot of collapsible lead on certain targets like that. But I think it's understanding the target, it's understanding what works for you, and what you're confident with. At the end of the day, guns, cartridges, chokes, it's all about confidence. If you're not confident, you're not going to hit it.
I always say it doesn't matter what method you use, as long as you're using it on purpose. That's the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
If you're not shooting swing through because you're late setting off every time, that's a bit different.
Yeah.
But you touched on cartridges on there. Got to cover it because everybody always wants to know on YouTube videos and podcasts. But equipment wise, obviously you were one of the first names I saw holding a Zolly.
Yeah.
So you've been with them for a while?
Yeah. So I've known the family. I've known the Zolly family for a number of years. They actually asked me probably about 6 or 7 years ago now if I'd consider shooting a Zolly. And I was with Krieghoff at the time, and I've been involved in sales and the sales game for a number of years, and to me it was all about, if I'm going to endorse something, try and promote something, use something, as honoured as I was to be asked to shoot it, I need to make sure that the backup is there, the after sales, the support and everything else. And unfortunately at that time in the UK, it wasn't. So I actually sort of turned the offer down at the time. And then 4 years ago now, Paolo basically collared me again at an international event and asked the question. And I said, right. And he's like, things have changed. Everything's changed. And to be fair, Edgar Brothers, obviously based up in Macclesfield, that are Zolly UK. They've had a complete restructure around. They've got a new team in there. Sam Ward has been there for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years now as an ex-gunsmith and sort of come through the ranks. They've really turned the support, the infrastructure and everything around in the UK. They got service bus on the road that travels around all the grounds, so now if you've got a Zolly, if you need to go and have it serviced or checked over or cleaned or whatever, pretty much at any of the majors now, they're there. And it's great just to be able to go, do me a favor, just make sure that works. I joined the Zolly family as a sponsored shooter by them just over 3 years ago now. Mainly, I don't think there's any such thing as a bad gun. There really isn't.
My Gronchi Michael might disagree with you.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you,
I know what you mean.
if
That
you
level
look at the quality
guns.
of guns now, they're all very, very good. I mean, I suffer very, very badly with recoil. I had a very bad accident many, many years ago. I broke several vertebrae at the top of my spine. And on especially which was FITUS at the time, 2-day shoots. First day I could shoot all right. The second day I would be as stiff as a board and walking around like a robot, not able to shoot. So recoil has always been a major part of any gun I've shot. So I use a recoil reducer. I use a RAD system now from America that reduces probably about 17-18% of the perceived recoil out of any gun. And I've had that on the back of every gun I've had now for the last 28 years. Krieghoff, very heavy gun, minimal recoil, absolutely love shooting the gun, won an awful lot with it. Can't fault the gun at all. People ask me why I went to Zolly. Uh, my Zolly weighs nearly a pound less than my Krieghoff, and I would say it's 40% less on recoil. I mean, they are absolutely incredible from that. So
That the XL Evo that
yeah,
you've got?
yeah. I mean, it's balanced perfectly. It suits me. I absolutely love it, and I offer it. So many people shoot it, and everybody comments on how minimal recoil there is on it. And when we do a lot of shooting, I mean, I don't shoot as many shells as a lot of the guys do, but to me, to make the perfect shot, the minimum amount of recoil that I can feel from one shot, to the next, only helps my recovery time and target acquisition on the second bird. The gun's great. I mean, there is no such thing as a bad gun, but I've been to the factory numerous times, and I know what goes into the build quality of them, and it is. Yeah, it is.
I mean, that's what I found interesting. So I'd heard of them, but I didn't know much about them. And then obviously Brett joined the team.
Yeah.
And we went out to film, and I was so impressed at the factory. I was just like, feels like you're in a family's
their attention to detail,
you know?
nothing is too much trouble in terms of the guns themselves. They come with 10-year warranties. Not many guns can turn around. In fact, in a lot of the countries, they turn around and go, do you know what, it's a lifetime warranty on it. And if you look after them and have them serviced regularly, it's easy. The great thing, I think, from that also is because they're all handmade, you went to the factory, but the fact that you can chop and change. One of my students, he shot my XL Evo and he was adamant he wanted one. So I got the team from Zolly to come down. They brought the service bus down. We brought about 20 different demo guns down. And I actually built a gun for Neil that I knew would fit him perfectly. He was on a 694 Beretta at the time. He went and shot a 25 bird sport trap setup that was just behind us. And he was absolutely nailing, middling everything. And he came back with the biggest grin on his face. And he's like, right, that's it. This is what I want. And I'm like, nah, you wanted an XL Evo, which was $9,500 at the time. And he went, yeah. And I went, that's not an XL Evo. And he went, well, what is it then? I said, it's a sensible. It's $6,500. And he went, well, I want it. And I'm like, no, you want an Evo. No, I want this one. So the thing is with it, it is important. It's about finding the right gun.
Yeah.
Rather than thinking about a price or a model or whatever. Gun fit, balance, quality. Yeah.
No, that's it. Like you say, you've got the options. You've got all the different rib specs, the different barrel specs
and
now as well.
I shoot Hull. I've been with Hull for 23 years. Used to shoot their Sovereign, their standard Sovereigns. And then again in probably about 2005 or 6, I had a bad back and was really struggling. And I think one of the things that we never do, we never try other cartridges. We find one that we like and we stick with it and we go, that's it, And I'd always shot Sovereigns, and I was at a shoot internationally actually, and Hull were there, and I was struggling big time. And they said to me, go and try some Pro Ones. And I'm like, I can't shoot Pro Ones. They're like, not as good as my Sovereigns, but I was in so much pain, I had to go and try it. And it was a typical thing. I thought, okay, went on to a fairly straightforward fit-us layout. And I remember the stand now. I remember putting a Pro One in the bottom barrel, and I still put a Sovereign in the top barrel just in case I missed it. And the first target came out and it absolutely smoked it. And I'm like, oh, they're all right. And it was really soft. And I've shot Pro Ones ever since. I keep a few Sovereign Black Deaths in my pocket for the odd extreme, thing. But no, it's just confidence. I love the cartridge. Everybody else will be going, oh yeah, but Game Boy is this and Fob is that and Fiocchi is that. And listen, if that's what you use and that's what you've got confidence in, happy days.
That's what it is, isn't it? It's a mental. I was saying this when we talked with Phil Robottom as well. And Brett said similar. I don't know. All the top end shells are going to perform.
They're
all the competition
grade
shells, like I say, they're going to outperform the shooter, especially that goes down in B class.
They'll outperform just about anyone. But again,
I put a Instagram post on when I was waiting for ferry. I says, "Has anyone got any questions?" and someone put in, "Oh, what shells are you using?" Because I hear the targets are far out there, and all that. I've got some B&Ps that I actually won on a raffle. So I've got some B&Ps, 7.5, 8, and then I'll have a few boxes, a couple of boxes of Darkstorm Black
Yeah.
Gold that I bought 1,000 probably 3 years ago, thinking I'd need more of them. I keep taking them to shoots and never using them. Like,
Yeah,
maybe an odd pocket full here and there, you know?
it is very difficult. I mean, I'm not sure what's going to happen on the cartridge front. Obviously, moving forward in a couple of years' time, I think when steel comes in, it's going to
Yeah. Well,
change
that's
things.
part of the reason why I wanted to get you on here, because I mean, I've shot steel in Germany, and obviously you're well involved with some with shooting ground in Germany, aren't you? And do master classes out there, so you've obviously shot a lot as well.
Yeah.
And I've possibly been a bit naive, because I kept saying to people, look, we've broke targets with them. We did a video up at Coniston recently with 16 gram steel, breaking targets, even universal trench targets, second barrel.
Yeah.
And they were only 16 gram. But actually, when I heard you talking at the European Compact, I hadn't considered the fact that it potentially rules us out of any international PITAS competitions.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it doesn't rule us out from taking part in them. It rules us out from hosting them.
Hosting.
Which obviously is a big blow. Because it's always nice if you can hold a championship on home soil. I think it's also they do perform differently, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, I shoot quite a lot of steel, and I think the cartridges are only going to get better over the next couple of years. I think the manufacturers are going to look at it and tweak it and make some changes as we go through. There's a few targets out there, there was a few, funny enough, some German friends of mine were over at the weekend and they went and shot the Sovereign at Hodnet. And there was a few targets on there, a few of the big birds on there, and they're like, we can't shoot them with steel, that is just beyond the realms of a steel shot. They're probably not, but I don't know how it's going to work with steel, whether we're going to drop down to number 5 shot, because obviously shot size, you tend to come down a little bit with steel. And then obviously there is talk about dropping to 24 gram, whether that'll happen or not. Then I think it's
a bit of one or the other for me. If we're going to not ban lead, the 24 gram drop would be reasonable. It cut a good chunk of lead going into grounds and that. But if we're doing steel, why drop down the 24 anyway?
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I think in the technical rules, you can shoot. I should know this because I put it on a video. I think it's size 4 for steel.
Yeah, if a ground's going to allow it.
Well, that's why you're going to say the grounds possibly haven't caught on to that yet.
But then you see, I'm not quite sure how it's going to work. I know there's the talk, obviously, about elite athletes, and these are guys on the Olympic pathway, Olympic athletes, and I get that. But actually, anybody that shoots for their country, be it in English sporting and traveling to America or FITAS and travel, they're elite athletes representing their country in this, that, and the other. Now, we can't obviously have it where we're going to be shooting, let's just say hypothetically, I get chosen as an elite athlete because I shoot for Great Britain. Therefore, I can shoot lead. But I'm not going to be able to shoot any registered competitions with lead because it's unfair on everybody else taking part. So that's never going to work in that frame of mind. So I'm going to be shooting steel the same as everybody else. Now, you go out to Eurocash like you are this week. Are you going to naturally, because you can, are you going to buy lead out there? And I'm fast forwarding it in theory 3 years, hypothetically. Are you going to buy lead because you can? Or would you take your 24 gram number 4 steels and shoot it on some of those targets? Now, if you want to win that event, you will be giving yourself every opportunity possible and you'd be using lead. Now, if you've shot all year with steel, and they do perform differently. I'm not saying they can't break a clay, but they do perform differently. I have the same thing with fiber versus plastic. Yes, you know, you go to a shoot that is all fibre, and as long as it's a level playing field for everyone, I
Yeah.
don't have a problem with it. But fibre doesn't perform in the same way. I'm not saying it's worse or better, it just performs differently. Steel performs differently. And if you're only ever shooting in the UK and you're only ever shooting against other people that's shooting steel, absolutely fine. And I get that. So I know it's not going to affect that many people, but there's 300 of us that go out to the World FITAS. You
Yeah.
know, 400 of us go out to the European Compact or whatever. Well, what happens then?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's interesting that in the Europe they've just ruled somewhat against it. The
yeah,
door's
they have.
still
Yeah,
open a little bit.
yeah. I mean, they've
Um,
basically there's a couple of good things on there. They've literally turned around and obviously said that it will affect the financial hunting industry and the shooting industry financially, right, by about 55%. And the government have turned around and gone, "Oh, hold on." And the French don't take any crap. You know, they'll, you know, they
no,
don't.
I've said that they've still got a good lobbying group
Yeah, they
because
have.
it's all under one
But the
banner
other thing
essentially.
as well that I thought was actually very fair out there, they have put in guidelines for reclaiming lead.
Yeah.
But they've turned around and said that we want you to reclaim your lead where it's financially viable. So if, you know, if you've got 10 grand's worth of lead out on your ground and it's going to cost you 8 grand to hire the machine in, it's financially viable, go and do it. But if you've got £1,000 worth of lead and it's going to cost you 10 grand to go and get it, it's not financially, therefore you don't. So it just, to me, it just seems that they've been,
Pragmatic on it.
yeah, yeah. And
Compared to
America have obviously, they've just ruled against it. It's quite funny because you say, obviously, I spend quite a lot of time in Germany. Now, Germany used to be lead, you know, up until about 2002, I think it was then when that got kicked out. And I spent a lot of time over there running masterclasses, and a lot of the organizations and the grounds I talk to, we laugh and joke because I don't know if Germany is 20 years behind the UK or 20 years in front of the UK in what's to come. Because obviously clay shooting is basically being reborn, you know, in
mm,
Germany now. It's been a little bit of trap and a little bit of ski, but predominantly it's hunting out there. The clay shooting side of it, you know, really dissipated off, you know, massively over the last 20 years. And it's only, you know, a couple of grounds out there now. We've introduced super sporting out there. We've got English sporting going. We've got obviously compact and what have you. So it's great to see that now gathering momentum and growing, albeit with steel. But it is quite worrying is that I don't know what impact it's gonna have on the UK. I talk to a lot of people about it. I think it's still very early days. I would say to anybody that gets the opportunity, go out and shoot some steel.
mhm.
You know, providing the ground allows it. I shot a compact at Churchill's a little while ago. I spoke to Rob there and I said, "Look, are you happy with me shooting steel on it?" And he's like, "Yeah, absolutely fine." I went round, I won the shoot. I shot a 99 with it. But then I've got the confidence in it. I
Having done
think
it.
the cartridges will change. I think it will get better. But I would honestly, even though people say, yeah, it's 2 years away, we all know that comes around very, very quickly.
It certainly does.
You know,
Certainly does, especially if
yeah.
you've got a stack of lead in
Yeah.
your cupboard to
Yeah.
get through.
Yeah. Brazzolis
Um,
are fine with steel. Rhino chokes are fine with steel, and Hull make a good steel. So, you
yeah.
know, that's my
Well, that's
plug anyway.
well, yeah, we're going to come on to rhino totes because again, one of the first adopters. He's just what Tim Walker told me. One of the first to
Yeah.
take a plunge on them.
Yeah. Um, I, again, for me, it sound like a broken record, but for me, everything is about confidence.
Yeah.
You know, I wear, you know, DX7s for hearing protection. To me, the Sens are the best they are. I've changed glasses a year ago. I changed to Leloro as a shooting optic, and I just find them absolutely perfect. My gun, I cannot improve it. My cartridges, I can't improve it. This is all in here. Everybody else will have their own combinations and be saying the same thing, and they're right the same as I am. But um, I'd shot the Zolly for a couple of years, and always in the back of my mind, even though you can go and shoot, you can break clays, you can put winning scores in and everything else. In the back of my mind, I was using the factory chokes, but there was something niggling away that it wasn't perfect. I was like 95% happy in my mind and this, that, and the other. And I spoke to Ivan, obviously at Teague, and I've worked with Ivan for a number of years and shot a lot of their chokes in different guns over the years. So I spoke to Ivan and I said, look, do me a favour. Can you make me a couple of titanium extended chokes for the Zolly? Because I've always had, a lot of confidence in what he did. And he made me a couple and they turned up brilliant. I put them in, I went and shot. They weren't any better or any worse, but they certainly weren't any better than the factory chokes. Again, it was just that, to me, there was like one little missing piece in the puzzle. And I went to Barbary to a registered competition down there, and they had a teal on there, and it was a good teal. I mean, it was like a 65-yard screamer. And I went on there in a sporting stand, and I only hit one of the four of the teal. Even that break wasn't that good. And I went back afterwards after the event had finished and shot a few more of them. And it would be hit one, miss one, and just, yeah. And it was a teal that I felt confident I'd break, so I'm confident on those. And I'd already spoke to Ben, about rhinos and this, that, and the other, and he said, "Oh, give Tim a ring." So I phoned Tim up, Tim Walker of Rhino UK, obviously, and I explained to him, and he said, "Okay," he said, "what do you want?" And I said, "I don't know." I said, "I normally shoot a couple of halves. That's normally all I shoot. It's all I shot in the Krieg off for years. I don't complicate it. I never change chokes." And he said, "Right, I'll send you down a couple of 22 thou, which is just over half, two of the silver chokes." So he sent those down. Literally a couple of days later, they turned up. I spoke to Josh, because obviously Barbie's just up the road. I spoke to Josh, and I said, "Is that teal still on around the back of the deer park?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I said, "Right, I'm popping down." And I went down, I went straight there, and just went with Pro Ones, and I shot that teal. And I tell you what, you couldn't have hit it any harder if you'd have been 5 yards from it. It absolutely vaporized it. And I'm like, bloody hell, and I did it again and again and again. And I thought, yep, that's it. This is it. In my head now. And I thought, well, while I'm down there, I'll shoot a few other bits and bobs. Could I hit a bloody thing under 30 yards? I mean, literally, it was like, break this in 3 bits, this in 4 bits, this in 5, and then you'd smoke one, then I'd break. Anyway, I remember going back and I phoned Tim up again, and I said, look, me again. I said, 22, awesome on anything 50 yard plus. I said, but anything under 30 yards. And he went, right. I said, so what we've got coming down? He said 17 thou, which is, I don't know, just under. It's
just
like
under half.
3/8, yeah, something like that. I said, right, come on in, send me 2 of them. So he sent me 2 of those down. I put them in the gun. I went round straight down to Barbary again. Teal was still on. I shot the teal. Granted, I put some 6.5s in for it, just because that's in my head, and absolutely tromped it again. Then I shot it with some Pro Ones and tromped it again. I then went round the rest of the course, and to give you an idea, I won the seniors at Eurocash last year. I think I hit 12 podiums last year. Those chokes haven't been out of my gun since I had them, and I won't take them out. I shoot everything with it, be it skeet, compact, extreme. They, to me, and I've spoken to a lot of people that have asked me about them, and I've everybody that I've put in touch, everybody that's ended up demoing them, trying them or whatever, have all said the same thing and just gone, oh my God. Don't get me wrong, I don't think they perform to the number on the choke, because that ain't a 17 thou pattern out of my gun. It's a lot more than that, but it works. And again, everybody has their own thing, but I suppose the most important thing for me out of all of this is making sure that whenever I go out, I don't have any doubt in any of my equipment.
The equipment, yeah.
The only time a clay doesn't break is if I've done something wrong. It's never anything that I've got in my kit bag, basically, that does it. And that's a nice place to be.
You don't want to be in that doubt, do you? I mean, I've had the 22 since Christmas, And the only time I've took them out were for European Compact, because the sort of things are a bit closer here for these. But same as you, I mean, I've just been massively impressed.
Yeah.
Even, I mean, I still shoot the farm shoots.
Yep.
So, and even fibre wood, I'm getting dust breaks with them like
Yeah.
I've never had.
We had
I'm gonna get some 17s though.
Yeah, well, we had so a lot of my students, so like the Germans, for argument's sake, they typically buy 7s, 12s, 17s, 22s, you name it. A lot of the time I get them to train. So we did some training ahead of Compact this weekend because they came over. I got them to train with 22s, but they shot the Compacts with 7s. So their mindset and everything is working hard to be tight. And to be fair, Christian, he straightened his last layout on the Compact, and he pinged 3 birds in half, which he would never have hit with 17s or 22s. But he was focusing hard enough because his mind had been working on a tight pattern. Then just by opening up, gave him that option. But the minute he's finished, we go back, to sort of 17s or 22s. So I think if you've got the opportunity, always train with something tighter, unless you're strong enough in your mind to make the target smaller. I turn a lot of standards into middies when they're at close range, or even into minis. So I train my eyes to look at a particular piece of the target as opposed to the whole target, which is the same thing if you're tightening down on chokes, really. You're just focusing, harder on a target, and then you can relax your eyes in a competition and shoot the bigger thing. So again, it's just, it's your head. It's mindset.
Cool. Well, I've kept you for 2 hours, Matt.
I told you I could talk.
Well, it's brilliant because I can talk. I could probably talk for another 2. I'm sure your family will like to see you tonight. I've covered everything I want to cover, unless there's anything else you think we've missed. Did you want to tell us a bit more about the ground in Germany that you're working with?
Yeah, so it actually it's just outside Frankfurt. It's called WCO. It's in a place called Gießen. It's predominantly a trap and skeet ground. I was actually very fortunate, I suppose. I started doing a lot of masterclasses, and I used that there. And I started those really for Zolly. Franconia is a very, very large German retailer. They got 26 almost like Bass Pro type stores, and they sell Zolly. So I started doing a bit with them. And then actually we used the ground to actually train a lot of their staff on the Zollies, just give them some product knowledge and let them have a shot with it and everything else. And then it progressed from there. And the owners of the club very kindly actually gifted me a percentage of the club. So it meant, as an owner, because obviously since Brexit, traveling backwards and forwards is a little bit more complicated with permits and other bits and bobs. As a part of a ground owner out there, I get special permits and everything now, so I can travel backwards and forwards, just flash my ID paperwork that I've got. So it was mainly done for that reason. But of course, having a vested interest in the ground does make it really good. So we've just bought quite a few more new traps there. I've got Laporte. We're actually going to put another big event. We run the Zolly Cup in Germany. We run that every August, and next year we've got some big plans for that to go ahead, and that'll involve several multi-disciplines, a little bit like sort of the Pro 1 finals day. Not the Pro 1, the Top Gun finals day. It'll be sort of multi-disciplined, which will be quite good. But yeah, currently they're clearing out about 40 acres of woodland to open up, to put a few towers in. It's...
Is that where you would, because you mentioned about doing more super sporting and stuff, is that where you'll be doing that?
Predominantly there. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's, like I say, we've got about 30 traps there now, I suppose, at the moment, which is great for the masterclasses. So I've got 2 areas. I have them both sort of set up at different levels, different abilities, and we can go in there, run, the sort of groups. I do sort of a group of 3, never do more than that, because it's enough for people to keep involved, but not too long, of sort of hanging around between sort of shooting.
Yeah.
So we do a group in the morning, group in the afternoon, and we tend to do that for a week solid. Um, so yeah, quite long weeks, but they work really, really well. And then obviously we do one-to-ones and that. But you
Yeah.
can put people together with similar abilities, and we do gun fits and all sorts of other bits and bobs, and then testing out different targets. And yeah, it's going really, really well, and it's just gathering sort of strength to strength. But um, it's a nice little ground. It's remote. We don't get hassled by anyone. The great thing about Germany, is everybody out there either hunts or fishes or whatever. Yes, there's a lot of legality things we have to go through, to make sure that the traps are safe and set and certain times and everything out from those. But no, they're actually mad for it. And
Oh, brilliant.
some of the UK companies, the opportunities out there. I mean, SWATCOM. I mean, I don't wear SWATCOM. I wear SENS, as I said earlier. But Keith and SWATCOM, for what he's done in the UK, and the opportunity that he's given to sort of shooters to wear that sort of protection. He really didn't have much of a market in Germany, so we've introduced him. He's now coming over and launching the SWATCOM brand into Germany, which will be absolutely great, both for the German side of it and for him as a British brand.
Yeah, brilliant.
Clayclo, they're now, Franconia have actually kicked Castellani out, and they're bringing Clayclo in, a special range made for them. But again, because the market's growing and it's promoting British companies, and
Yeah.
and that's really what it's all about. Um, we're we're a big industry, but we're a very small industry.
Yeah.
The shooting fraternity, you've been doing it 5 years. You can travel anywhere in the world. It's the same 3, 4, 500 faces, no matter where you go, what you do. There's not many of us really.
No,
Um,
I was saying this to someone over there because we were on about there's 400-ish, 500,000 firearms or shotgun certificate holders in the UK.
yeah.
But the CPSA membership's 23-ish thousand, I think.
Yeah, and of
And
which I
of that,
think I think only
uh,
about 7 or 8,000 of those actually
so
shoot
I
registered
say, yeah, I was
targets
gonna
as
say
well.
only 7,000 that shoot registered.
And that's
So
across what, a dozen disciplines,
yeah,
you know. I mean, at least with our disciplines, the sporting, the fit house, the compact, they're all three very similar. Um, I made no bones about the fact that I am not a trap shooter. Top Gun ripped me a new one on that. I was day with that OT. Um,
well, like I said, I don't think you were the only one. I think Martin Myers banged in a big score, but
Yeah, he did.
I think
Yeah, yeah.
everyone I spoke to were like, "Oh, the
I
bloody
got
trap."
Nathan Hales on speed dial though for next time. I'm going to book a lesson in with him, or might need a week with him, perhaps, or maybe a month. But yeah,
But it's
if they
funny.
do
I
it
mean,
again.
we
But
were talking about it before. Mate said, "Well, you're down here, you're going to go practice." I'm like, "I'm out in France, all I run up to it, so I'm not going to get a chance." I might have to
no,
go shoot some foss over here, but I said, "I
yeah,
don't know."
but they've
Anyway, I
certainly,
didn't get through to finals, so it was all
yeah,
right. You know?
yeah. I mean, they've certainly sort of set the bar for major events, and I think they've released their
Yeah.
dates next week, I think, or later this week, or
Later
whatever.
this week, I think is the plan. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Sam said on a vlog yesterday that they've decided. They just need to finalise a few bits.
Yeah, I just hope a lot of the other grounds can
I
hopefully
think,
take inspiration. I know there's a lot of money involved, and
yeah,
that's very different. But to try to, I know it's about the shooting. I know we want to shoot clays, but I think if we can make our events, not
I'm
just
just going to say
shoots.
it needs to be an event.
Yeah,
Doesn't it? I
if
mean,
we can
I
make
went
them
to that Jack
events.
Links in America, and I mean, we're talking about this, I think, on the podcast with Johnny Carr. Like, how much would it cost just to put a little bit of something on the Saturday?
Yeah.
Or the Friday evening? Whether
Yeah,
that's a bit of
but
pull shoot, maybe some,
we
barbecue, something
we
like that.
tried it. So we tried it with the fitters, because obviously I was involved with the fitters board and this, that, and the other, trying to turn that around. And we've tried it where we've had barbecues on the Saturday night on a 2-day shoot. we had, Roundwood. Roundwood's a phenomenal ground. Andy Shaw had a band come in and this, that, and the other, and a live singer and that on the Saturday night. But people don't want to stay. I don't know how you encourage people to, take part in the event. And like I said, it can't just be driven from the organisers. It has to be driven by the shooters. We have to support it as much as a ground has to, and organisers have to try and put it on. If we don't support it and make the effort, then we can't moan about, things going wrong.
I mean, I know a few people had asked how sort of full Top were going to go. I don't think they ever thought they were going to fill it, to be honest, because there were always going to be that midweek section were going to be a challenge to fill. But I shot Friday, Saturday, because I'd shot the Parazzi so crap on Friday. I said, well, I'm pretty much out of qualifying. I'll go see if I can get a targets only round for Saturday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go and film it, because we didn't film. One, because I wanted to focus a bit on competing myself, but also my friends were all in the running still on Saturday on my squad. They were all up there in C class. Kevin got knocked out of 5th place, like the very last score that came in C class. I thought, bugger. So I went to see if I could get a targets all around for Saturday afternoon and do some filming. But absolutely full.
Really?
No spaces at all. So like, what the hell? Not even to jump on a targets only. So yeah, I think we'll see a lot more from abroad. I mean, they did well anyway, getting so many of the French guys.
Yeah, they did.
Over.
I mean, it was great. I mean, obviously you have Christophe Ouvray and Bastien come over. Obviously, Tomas. Tomas he'll have loved it for all the right reasons, but he'd have come over and supported it. Andras was there. It's great to see some of the overseas. There was quite a lot of the Irish guys came over.
Loads, wasn't there?
Shot it, and
loads on my rotation.
But that's fantastic. I hope it doesn't have to be £40,000 or the guarantee of getting your money back if you make the final. I hope it doesn't have to be that to bring people back. I think just having that event and that spirit and that atmosphere, and like I said, if even on the finals day, I know it's all money going out, but on the finals day they had a hog roast there that was free. You had drinks and that were free. You had obviously 125 targets that are free, and not everybody can afford all the free stuff, but then there are. I think a lot of people want to feel part of something rather than just another number.
Yeah, like I say, it's you want to. It's all said about the Jack Links and that. And you feel like they're really happy to have you there.
Yeah,
you're not just like I said, not just a number, not just an entry fee.
Last year
they want you to enjoy it, and they want to make it feel special for you.
Last year we had the World Fit House. Obviously, we went out obviously the week before, and we actually went to Chicago for a Grand Prix. Me and a few guys from here, and after the shoot and that was over, they'd brought in just a load of bloody pizzas, just big old pizzas. I mean, they don't cost a lot of money. I don't know, they brought 50 bloody pizzas in, probably cost a couple of $100. But everybody stayed and everybody had a drink and everybody tucked into it. And then it's not just because it's free stuff, but it's just, I don't know. I suppose I would like just to see events become events. And I do think the calendar is very busy. I understand, why grounds are touting for everybody's business. But I just, like we said right back at the start, maybe we should just have registered, just registered. They're nothing special. If people just want to go and record their scores, just go and do a registered shoot and everything else. But then the bigger shoots, the titled shoots, the championship shoots, the more important ones, let's see if we can, one, from a shooter's point of view, support it, but let's see if we can make it more like an event than just another.
Do you think there's any scope to build like a tour from them that's got its own point system and own prizes? Obviously mean all the grounds working together to do that. But you'd have something like the American tour system. And then again, you can start to feed that into being more of an event. But yeah, it's something I'd like to see change just from the time I've spent in America.
Yeah.
But you know, I can't lie, I'm as guilty as the next person that often
Yep, I know.
just
We
get
all
my
are.
car done
Yeah,
and think,
we
well,
all
I've got
are.
a 3-hour drive back up north. And
But if
yeah,
we're
the problem
moaning,
is the British bloody roads, isn't it? Because if I have to drive 3-4 hours here in France, it's like, yeah, it's all right.
I know.
Whereas at home, it's
I
like,
know. I can
fucking
literally,
hell.
I can drive to Germany and get out the car damn sight more relaxed than I can drive to,
Yorkshire.
yeah, it is. But I think something has to change. As far as the sport, everybody's moaning about the costs, and they are just going up, and they're not going to get any cheaper. They are just going to continue. I think people will be doing less, or if they're not doing less, they'll be doing what they're doing, but they'll be more selective with where they go.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see, we lost another ground round our way that just do registered shoots. They got noise abatement issues and they've been running for God knows how many years. They've now stopped having to do registereds because time restraints are allowed to start at 10 and finish at 12:30, I think, or 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we don't want to lose any more grounds. We're already
No.
struggling as it is.
No, that's the other thing with the steel side of it that worries me, because we both talked about the fact that we came through that farm shoot straw baler system, and until there's a viable wad alternative to fibre, that could be the death knell
But
for them now.
the other one as well, though, is you talk about the 500,000 shotgun license holders. You go back to your old AYA, your old Yeoman, and this, that, and the other. Half the guns I got in I cupboard, I can't put steel through them. And there's a lot of old gamekeepers, farmers, farmers' sons, and this, that, and the other. And my concern is that 500,000 will drop to 300,000, probably even lower than that.
Yeah.
And even though they don't shoot competitive clays and this, that, and the other, it's still numbers that we can't afford to lose. Might means that renewals and that get done a bit quicker, but
Won't bank on it.
No.
They were supposed to get quicker when fees went up. I'm at West Yorkshire and they've been brilliant, to be fair, but my renewal's it's got close to me expiry. And I banged it in as soon as the letter come in. He said, to be fair, because I said, I'm going out abroad. I need this to come. Because it's all right giving me an extension,
we know
that I've got to send it in for my travel, and it's going to show.
We know that the world and their wife are against us, competing, having guns, and they are trying to make everything as complicated as possible. And I think, just to put people off a lot of the time. But I think we do have to stay and stand sort of united and say, no, at the end of the day, it is our sport. We do love it. We are very passionate about it. And anybody that goes out and shoots targets knows how much we love it. Otherwise, we wouldn't keep doing it, because nobody in their right mind, nobody with any sane brain in their head would go out clay shooting. I mean, you just wouldn't do it, But we do. We absolutely love it. And I take a lot of new people. I'm doing a lot of work on the house. My electrician, he's been clay shooting me. My plumber, he's been clay shooting. Even my chippy, I took him down. He's just applied for his license because he's come out 3 or 4 times and he's bitten by the bug and just says, this is great. Probably never get to serious competition level, but they just absolutely love it,
No, well, this is it. I think we all need to do. Well, not all, some of us do, obviously, but we all need to be promoting it a bit better to people who haven't done it before. I mean, I organise, because I work for NHS, so I've organised quite a few corporate days with work, just to break some of that perception. Because like saying it's a sporting implement. It's no different to my set of darts that are in my bag.
No.
Could kill someone with a golf club if you really wanted to.
I mean, Europe is obviously, or France and this, that, and the other is great because you can just jump in the car and it's easy. But the grief and aggravation taking a gun on a plane, and at the end of the day, it's a lump of, we don't ever bother with ammo anymore, but it's a lump of metal and a lump of wood in a lockbox and you're giving it to them. I mean, you can take a set of golf carts, you can take a pushchair onto a plane. I could do a lot more damage with a pushchair than ever I could with a bloody lump of bloody wood if you were that way inclined. But it is just a sporting implement. And I think the more we can get across, and you're 100% right, if everybody had an opportunity just to say, do you know what, come down to my local club, have 20 shots. If you don't like it, don't matter. We'll have a coffee, have a beer, and this, that, and the other. But just have a go with it, and try to encourage more people, in to have a go doing that way. I think the general perception of it, I had a thing through today on social media. Oh, this video is deemed aggressive behavior or whatever, and it was actually one of the young lads shooting a few clays on a stand. How's that aggressive?
No, no.
But the only way we can change that is by us,
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But
No, that's it. Like I say, I think we need to be, the organisations and people involved need to be embracing the new mediums, the
Yeah.
YouTube shorts, YouTube videos,
Yeah.
Facebook shorts,
and support it and promote
Instagram.
it and not criticize it. I think that's the one thing, that you said right at the back about at the start. Obviously, with the Americans, they're very supportive. It's very promotional. It's everybody get behind everybody and do well. If somebody does put a YouTube channel up or does, put a little bit of thought into, promoting it, let's not criticize it. Let's not, oh, well, he's not wearing glasses, or he's got the wrong hearing protection on, or he's not doing this, or he shouldn't be wearing them shoes, or whatever. Why not just go, it's brilliant, and share it?
You have to have a thick skin, believe me. Some of the comments I get, someone not so long ago, like, "Yo, shit, why are you making videos? No one wants to see you missing targets," or something like that. I know that, right? You always cut out your misses. Right, I fucking don't. Like, they're on there. I usually share my scorecard if I remember to take a picture of it. I did all like. What did he say? He was like saying basically the stands that I'm showing other shooters is because I've shot them crap. And I'm like, well, yeah, it goes in an order of which did we film the best and who shot it the best. Because why would I show me missing 4 on the stand if someone has run it and shot it really well? So
I don't know
you get so many weird comments on that.
Well, I don't know anybody that's ever picked up a gun and shot at clays, be it competitive, world-class level or beginner level, that hasn't missed. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we do miss.
Yeah. It's the one thing I think, most of the time it's fine. I have seen a couple of times where, so go back to like the Fit-Ass GP at Park Lodge, there was a chap who came on our squad and he hadn't really shot Fit-Ass before, and he hadn't realised kind of it were a big competition and going to be tough because it's Tom and Dave's targets. Okay. And most of the squad were fine, because he pretty much didn't know what we were doing with Fit-Ass, to be fair. So give him a lot of help and all that. I'm trying to explain bits to him. But some of them were like sniggering and laughing about him when he was struggling, and he were having a laugh, to be fair. But like this backhanded sniggering, I was like, you had to shoot it your first time once, didn't you?
Yeah.
The guy's made a mistake and booked on what I thought were going to just be a friendly little shoot, and it's a British GP, but he's here to have fun.
I think that's the other thing as well that I think is also really important. And I speak to a lot of people that struggle to know how to get into the sport.
Yeah.
We said right at the beginning, obviously, how intimidated I felt going to, a major. I didn't even know I was even eligible to go, and you do, but you've got somebody like that obviously goes to, a tough shoot, probably not the right shoot for them, probably didn't know at the time, but at least went, gave it a go. If you criticize, if you slate, if you snigger behind their back, or you even make them feel uncomfortable and they go, well, I ain't doing that again, then you've lost someone. And we talked earlier about trying to bring more people on. I don't think our governing body, and this isn't a pop at, or designed as a pop at them, I don't think they necessarily do enough to encourage or to explain how to get into it. Things like dress codes, what you need, what you do, where you go. I don't think anybody really has actually done anything, and I think that would be a good opportunity to. I get a bit frustrated with youngsters. I know I work a lot with youngsters, but I get frustrated with youngsters because everybody says, "Oh, give it to the kids. They're the future. They're this, they're that," and I get it, but I had to pack up when I had a mortgage and had a family and this, that, and the other, because other things took over. And the vast majority of youngsters that I've worked with, they've packed up through whatever reason. The ones that I think are the most important ones are those that used to play squash or used to play rugby or used to play football or whatever, packed up because their body couldn't take it anymore
Yeah.
at 30, 40 odd years old, have actually got a few quid behind them and want another sport, another hobby, something to get into and mix. And actually, they're the ones that don't know how to do it. They may go to your local club, they may go and get a Claymate card and go round and have a pop and this, that, and the other, but they're never going to progress any further if somebody or something doesn't go. Do you fancy? Now, whether that should be the counties starting it at county level, should all the counties perhaps look to try to recruit, encourage, have open days, test days, and
Like you say, why are they not at the grounds promoting registered shooting?
Yeah.
I mean, the whole reason I started the YouTube channel initially because I couldn't find anything that told me what to expect at my first registered, what the targets were going to be like or anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that was the initial inspiration. In fact, that's why the channel's called Mike's Shooting Journal, because it was going to be like just tracking me shooting registered shoots and stuff. So I've watched lots of videos about shooting, but I don't know what to expect.
No.
And I was sat there thinking I'm probably not good enough to go to a registered shoot, really.
And again, that is exactly it. And I wonder how many thousands of those 500,000 shotgun license holders, how many thousands of them think exactly that and think, I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what I need. I don't want to make an arse of myself. I don't know who to speak to. You know, I think all of that, I mean, even from going onto the CPSA website, clicking how to become a member, clicking what to do, clicking, what you need, listing a handful of clubs perhaps that, maybe put a thing out for the shooting grounds to actually have somebody at their ground that could talk somebody through that, get them to contact you, and you publish on your YouTube a list and say, if you go to this ground or you're from the southeast, speak to this guy. If you're from the northeast, speak to this guy. They'll talk you through the process, whatever. They could pair you up with other shooters to have a go.
The other thing I'd like to see them do, so the NSCA do is your first year you get a complimentary membership. You don't get voting rights. You can only have the magazine as a PDF, which the CPSA are now doing.
Yeah. So how many things do you get? I get them every bloody day coming through saying free subscription, sign up to this in 28 days time or 1 year's time or whatever, we'll automatically renew you. But for the next 14 days, it's free. Give everybody a year free. Yeah. Take all their details and this, that, and the other, but the first year is free. And obviously it's down to them to cancel in 12 months time. If they don't, you got another membership. But like I said, what does it cost? You can give them an online pool magazine, doesn't cost anything.
That's it. Just send them. It's an email register that you send an email to. The PDF to.
Yeah. 6 months or I don't know. There's got to be something, but we need to get the numbers up. And I think, like I say, even more so with what's coming over the next 2 to 3 years. Definitely.
Like I say, I don't know why they don't do that. I mean, I signed up for NSCA because I was going out in the November. And I decided I was shooting some grounds and I thought, I'll go shoot a couple of registered while I'm there.
Well, I hear that there's a position just come available, so I reckon it will be Mike for Prime Minister.
I don't think I'd be welcome in the Labour Party, I'm afraid. But just think, like I signed up, shot them first couple of registered, and then I thought, well, I'll probably go back in a year, so I'll just sign up and pay for my membership, keep my classification that I've got now.
Yep.
So it's stuff like that. There's lots we could be doing.
Yeah.
You just need somebody to do it. That's the problem.
Yeah. I know. Anyway.
Right, buddy.
You're an hour in front of me, so you're getting even later than I am.
On that sour note, although it is optimistic because there's stuff we can do.
Yeah, it is. We can make it better. It will be better.
But listen, Matt, thank you very much for coming on. I really appreciate you taking a lot of time out of
No,
your
that's
evening
right. Really enjoyed
to
it.
come and chat. And yeah, where will we see you next? What's the next shoots for you?
Yeah, Super Sport in the Garlands, I think, in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Got that one. Obviously, we've got the game fair coming up. I've got a couple of county shoots that I want to do. And then I'm back out in Germany end of the month. Yeah, another load of lessons out there. So busy.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
Well, again, thanks very much.
No problem at all. Great chatting to you. You take care. Cheers, Mike. Bye-bye.